The border stones hadn't changed, but the air between them had. I felt it before I stepped through, like the land itself paused, tasting the stranger who'd once been its weakest cub. My pulse kept an even rhythm as I crossed into Ashridge, refusing to betray anything sharper beneath the calm. Dry leaves cracked behind me. "Identify yourself." 3 patrol wolves emerged from the underbrush, shifting mid-stride. Muscles tensed under skin still humming from the shift's afterglow. The tallest, Joran, squinted at me with the same dismissive confidence he'd practiced on every Omega in training drills. I didn't give him the satisfaction of flinching. "A Shah Renhold, returning under right of ancestral claim." Joran's brows twitched. He definitely recognized the name, though he tried to bury the reaction. "Renhold thought she—" He stopped, glancing at the woman beside him. The woman finished the sentence he didn't dare. "Died in exile." I held her gaze. I didn't. Their uncertainty prickled against my skin, something between caution and discomfort. Wolves sensed imbalance, and something inside me pulsed in a way their instincts didn't understand. No one here would. Joran cleared his throat, reaching for protocol. "Alpha Hale will decide if you can enter fully. Until then, wait." He turned to give the alert howl, but stopped mid-breath. His nostrils flared. A faint heat rippled around us, my control slipping for a heartbeat. I reined it back in. He exhaled sharply, unsettled. "I'll send the summons." The patrol formed a loose circle around me while we waited. Years ago, being surrounded like this would have made my knees shake. Now I simply listened to the wind threading through branches, steadying the ache in my temple. Minutes passed before footsteps came from the western path, heavy, deliberate, belonging to someone raised to command every inch of the ground he walked on. Ryan Hale. His presence struck the clearing before he spoke. Wolves reacted to him the way trees bent toward light. His beta Malik shadowed his left side. Ryan's gaze landed on me. The air between us tightened, not with recognition, but with something deeper. His breath hitched softly before he masked it, though his shoulders squared as if bracing for an impact only he felt. Malik gave me an assessing look. "State your purpose." Ryan's voice cut through, low and controlled. "Give her a moment." His attention settled on me again. "You are a Shah Renhold." Not a question, a certainty. "Yes." He studied my face as though comparing it to a memory he didn't expect to return. "You were exiled at 16. Against my will." Something flickered in his eyes, irritation at a wrong he hadn't caused, or something else I didn't want to guess at. Why come back now? There were a dozen answers I could have offered. Only one mattered. "I have information for the council, and a right to stand before them." Before he responded, a faint vibration rolled under the soil. It tugged at my ankles like a warning. Ryan's head jerked slightly, picking up the tremor too. Malik tensed. Joran whispered, "Not normal." Ryan silenced him with a look. His attention returned to me, sharper now. "You triggered that?" I walked across the border. "That's not what I asked." I didn't blink. "If I could control what reacts to me, this conversation would be easier." Malik exchanged a quick glance with Ryan. The beta wasn't afraid, but he was wary. Smart man. Ryan considered his options. Pack law required him to detain any returning exile until identity and intent were examined. He stepped closer, sent brushing my senses, pine, cold iron, something restless beneath. His wolf surged so close to the surface I felt it. He masked it instantly. "A Shah Renhold," he said, voice steady. "You'll be housed in the East Wing under watch until the council gathers. You'll be treated as a guest, not a prisoner. For now." A diplomatic decision. A risky one. He turned as if to walk away, but paused. Just for a blink. Just long enough for the air to pull tight again, his wolf pushing against whatever restraint he used to keep it silent. His next words carried something unspoken. "Welcome back to Ashridge." I didn't answer. Because beneath the floorboards of the territory itself, something murmured in response to me, and the Alpha heard it too. The East Wing smelled different from the rest of Ashridge. Clean stone, old cedar, and faint traces of wolf musk embedded in the walls. Not hostile, just watchful. Someone had designed this place for guests they didn't fully trust. Doors reinforced. Windows narrow. Enough room to pace, not enough to escape unnoticed. 2 sentries followed me inside, one older, one barely past 18. The younger man tried not to stare, failing spectacularly. "She really is alive," he muttered under his breath. Older guard nudged him. "Quiet." I ignored them both. My focus landed on the space I'd be confined to for the night. A modest chamber with a single lantern and a thin mattress. Better than a cell. Worse than freedom. Ryan's decision echoed faintly in my mind, not a command, but something more measured. He hadn't wanted to treat me like a criminal, yet had to consider the consequences of appearing lenient. Alpha duties were a chain as much as a crown. The guards lingered until I closed the door. Their footsteps faded down the corridor, swallowed by the building's thick silence. Good. Only then did I let my shoulders drop a fraction. My hands tingled, an after effect I'd struggled with for months. Energy crawled beneath my skin, impatient, as if tapping out a message I still couldn't read. I braced my palms against the edge of the desk, grounding myself through the rough grain of the wood. "Not now," I whispered into the dim room. A warm pulse answered from somewhere deep inside me. Not pain. Not comfort. Something between. A knock interrupted before the sensation could build. I opened the door expecting another guard. Instead, a young woman in a healer's apron stood there, her hazel eyes alert. She couldn't have been more than 20, but confidence straightened her spine. "Alpha Hale asked me to check on you," she said. "I'm Lyra, pack medic." I stepped aside to let her enter. She carried a small satchel, its clasp marked with the pack insignia, 3 curved lines forming a wolf's silhouette. "What exactly are you checking?" I asked. Lyra scanned me with a clinical gaze. "You crossed the border under stress. We verify returning wolves aren't injured or sick." She hesitated. "We also monitor energy irregularities." My jaw tightened. "Energy? That tremor earlier wasn't subtle," she said gently. "Ryan wants details." Of course he did. Lyra approached with an herbal vial, her movements careful but not fearful. "I'm only here to observe, not report anything you don't want shared." A surprising statement. Most healers serve the council directly, not the patients. Her sincerity disarmed me more than her presence. I extended my hand but kept my expression guarded as she checked my pulse and pressed lightly against tendons along my wrist. She frowned. "Your temperature spikes, then drops, and your pupils respond to light slower than expected." She looked up. "Does this happen often?" "A few times." "How long has it been happening?" "A while." Lyra didn't push for more. Instead, she adjusted the lantern flame to study me better. "Your aura feels uneven, not dangerous, just layered." Layered, I almost laughed. That was one word for it. "Anything else?" I asked. She hesitated again, longer this time. "Your wolf feels close, but not in the usual sense. It's like it's listening instead of reacting." A subtle chill crawled up my arms. She was perceptive. Too perceptive. Before I could reply, a distant howl cut through the building, short, firm, signaling an alpha's summons. Lyra stiffened. "He wants a report soon." I stepped back from her touch and inhaled slowly, calming the restless hum beneath my ribs. "Tell him I'm stable for now." Lyra packed her tools without argument. At the doorway, she paused. "Asha, if you need someone who isn't afraid of you, I'm around." "I don't need that." She smiled faintly. "Everyone needs something." When she left, the room seemed smaller. I paced once, twice, then stopped when a faint scorch mark caught my eye beneath the bed frame, thin like a claw dragged across stone. My stomach tightened. I crouched, brushing my fingertips over the line. It was warm, too warm, and I knew I hadn't done anything while conscious. Something inside me was moving on its own. The scorch line under the bed refused to cool. Heat clung to it like breath on glass, steady and unhurried, as if it were waiting for me to notice. I straightened slowly, aware of the faint prickle crawling up my spine. No one else in Ashridge could leave a burn in stone without shifting or summoning a ritual circle. I'd done neither. A quiet scrape echoed outside my door. Not footsteps, fabric brushing wood. Someone was listening. I moved toward the window instead of the entrance. It gave me an angle on the corridor through the reflection in the glass. A shadow lingered near the threshold, stiff posture, arms glued to their sides. Not a guard. A whisper drifted in. "Are you awake?" The voice belonged to the young guard from earlier, the nervous one. He hovered uncertainly, clearly torn between curiosity and duty. I opened the door just enough to see him. "You shouldn't be here," he startled. Sorry, I just needed to check." His gaze darted past me, searching for something he didn't understand. "The building feels off, like the walls are breathing." The comment landed harder than he probably intended. Walls reacting, ground shifting. My wolf stirring without permission. "What's your name?" I asked. "Thomas." "Thomas, go back to your post." I kept my tone even. "Nothing in here will hurt you." He swallowed. "That's kind of the problem. It feels like something outside the room is paying attention now." That froze me. "Explain." He shook his head helplessly. "I don't know how. I've lived in the East Wing since I was a kid. It's never felt like this. The stones keep warming and cooling under my feet." My pulse tightened. "Not fear, calculation." "Did you report it?" "No, if the council hears, they'll blame you." "So will everyone else," I said. Thomas looked genuinely troubled. "I'm not everybody." His sincerity hit unexpectedly hard. Before I could answer, another set of footsteps approached, firmer, unfazed by the shifting temperature. Malik. The beta stopped at the door, taking in the scene with one sweep of his sharp, controlled gaze. His presence grounded the hallway instantly, as if the structure itself respected him. "Thomas, return to your station." Thomas obeyed immediately, though he shot me one last, silent warning before hurrying away. Malik pushed the door wider and gestured for me to step back. He entered without aggression, just a steady awareness of everything in the room. His eyes passed over the lantern, the walls, me, and finally the burn under the bed. He crouched, running 2 fingers close to the mark without touching. "How long has this been here? I noticed it 10 minutes ago. Were you asleep when it happened?" "No." He considered that, jaw shifting as he pieced together unstated possibilities. "Anything like this occurred during your time away?" I gave him the truth I was willing to share. "Sometimes I wake and find the ground different than I left it." "Different how?" "Displaced, warm, cracked." I paused. "Not always." Malik rose, studying me with a strategist's focus, not fear, not suspicion. He was evaluating patterns, risks, root causes. "Alpha Hale needs to hear this tonight." I figured. He stepped back but didn't leave immediately. "Asha, whatever's happening to the territory, it started the moment you crossed the border." The words weren't an accusation. They were an observation and a warning. "My return wasn't meant to be quiet," I said. "So it seems." A distant horn sounded from outside, the single note signaling a council summons at dawn. Malik's expression darkened. "They want answers quickly, be ready." He left with controlled urgency, the door clicking shut. I exhaled slowly, staring at the glowing slash in the stone. The territory wasn't simply reacting to me. It was waking up around me. And somewhere in the back of my mind, my wolf stirred, awake, aware, and whispering something I couldn't yet understand. Dawn crept over Ashridge in muted streaks, pale orange brushing the rooftops, the kind of morning that tried to look gentle but couldn't hide the tension humming beneath the territory. Even the trees felt rigid, their branches angled as if listening. A guard escorted me across the courtyard toward the council hall. I caught faint traces of wet soil, cold metal, and distant wolves beginning their early patrols. Familiar scents, yet none of them welcomed me. Ryan Hale waited at the base of the stone staircase. He wasn't flanked by anyone this time. No beta, no advisors, just him, arms crossed loosely, posture deceptively relaxed. But every inch of him tracked my approach, quiet, direct, almost analytical. Interesting. As I reached him, his gaze dipped, subtle, not invasive, checking for signs of instability. When he looked back up, something flickered across his expression before settling again. "You didn't sleep," he said. A statement, not sympathy. "Did you expect me to?" I countered. The corner of his mouth twitched, not amusement, not irritation, something else. "No." We stood facing one another for a breath longer than necessary. His scent reached me again, pine sharpened by dawn air, edged with a hint of steel. His wolf hovered close to the surface, listening the way mine did last night. A sound rumbled under the ground, quiet, like a stone shifting beneath soil. Ryan's pupils tightened. He felt it too. His voice dropped lower. "It reacted again. Not because I did anything." "I didn't say you did." That surprised me. Most alphas would have accused first, questioned later. He gestured toward the doors. "They're waiting." He didn't move until I stepped forward. For a moment, he stood beside me rather than leading, an unspoken acknowledgement that I wasn't a prisoner, even if no one else saw it that way. Inside, the council chamber smelled of old smoke, ink, and authority worn thin by politics. Circular seating. Raised dais. Elder portraits lining the back wall, each pair of painted eyes following us like vultures measuring the next carcass. Ryan's voice carried through the space with easy control. "Elders, she's here." 3 council members looked up. Elder Wenna, sharp, silver-haired, spine straight as a spear. Elder Cal, broad and tired-looking, fingers stained with old ink. And Elder Varric, the youngest, whose perpetual smirk made him instantly punchable. Wenna spoke first. "Asha Renhold. You stand before us seeking reinstatement of ancestral rights and requesting audience regarding unknown concerns." Her tone implied she found both requests inconvenient. I bowed my head, not deeply. "Correct." Varric leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. "You vanished for years," he said. "Now you return and the borders rumble. Quite the coincidence." I kept my face neutral. "Coincidence isn't the word I'd choose." Cal opened a ledger. "Before we discuss your information, we must verify your identity." Ryan stepped in smoothly. "Already confirmed, I saw her shift record myself." Wenna's stare sharpened. "You saw a record, verification requires observation." Ryan's tone cooled a fraction. "You want her to shift here. It is required." The hall stiffened. A forced shift inside a closed chamber surrounded by 3 elders and an alpha watching closely, dangerous, even for a stable wolf. For someone like me, whose abilities were acting without permission, it was nearly reckless. Ryan seemed to realize that. His jaw angled slightly, not with tension, but with unspoken disagreement. "Asha," Wenna continued, "failure to comply. I'll do it." The room inhaled. Ryan's eyes snapped to mine, not warning, not anger, something far quieter, concern he didn't intend to reveal. I stepped into the open center of the chamber. The floor beneath my feet vibrated once, faint as a heartbeat. The elders didn't notice. Ryan did, his voice brush low. "Asha, if you're not fully in control, then this is the only way to find out." Silence dropped between us, heavy, certain. My wolf stirred beneath my skin, stretching like a creature waking after a long confinement. I drew in a breath, braced, and let the shift begin. The forest swallowed the world in silence. Only Alara's heartbeat, thin, wild, terrified, echoed in her ears as she crouched behind the fallen pine, the scent of crushed leaves sticking to her trembling hands. Her wolf whined inside her chest, desperate, shaking, still too young to rise. "Not now, please, not now." Branches snapped behind her. Heavy steps, controlled, predatory. Kieran Frost wasn't running anymore, he was tracking. "Alara," his voice rolled out, calm in a way that made her ribs tighten. "Come out. You didn't do anything wrong." A lie, a gentle one, a practiced one. She squeezed her eyes shut. She knew the truth, knew she'd seen the unseeable. Knew that if she stepped out now, she'd be handed to the elders and whatever they did to girls who shifted early. Another branch cracked. He was close, too close. Her breath hitched when his shadow stretched over the pine, tall and sharp, his wolf aura brushing against her like a cold hand. "I can hear your heartbeat from here," he murmured. She froze, not because of his threat, but because she heard his heartbeat too, loud, thunderous, frantic, as if he wasn't hunting her, but terrified of losing her. "Alara," he said, voice cracking at the edges now, "please, don't make me drag you out. They'll say I meant to hurt you." He sounded desperate, a sound she'd never heard from the alpha air. Slowly, breath shaking, she rose from her hiding place. Leaves clung to her hair, dirt streaked her knees, and her wolf clung to her spine like a frightened child. Kieran froze when he saw her, saw how small she looked, how scared. Then something flickered across his face, regret, relief, rage, but not at her. "Why did you run?" he whispered, stepping closer. She swallowed. "You weren't supposed to see me shift." Kieran's chest rose sharply. "And you weren't supposed to be dragged before the elders like a criminal," he said, voice roughening. Thunder cracked in the distance. Wind picked up between them, twisting their scents together, pine, storm, fear. Kieran looked at her like she was something sacred, something forbidden. "Alara, trust me," he said. "I'm going to protect you, but you have to come now." She hesitated, not because she didn't trust him, but because she didn't trust whatever future waited once she stepped out of this forest. Still, her feet moved. One step, then another. Kieran's hand reached for her, but before he touched her, a howl ripped through the tree line, ancient and furious. The elders had found them. Kieran's eyes widened. "Alara, run." The howl wasn't just a warning. It was a verdict. The elders were coming, and they weren't coming to talk. Kieran's hand closed around Alara's wrist just as another howl rolled through the pine trunks, deeper, older, vibrating the forest floor. Birds scattered. Frost bit the air. The roots beneath their feet trembled as if bowing to something ancient and cruel. "Kieran," she whispered, breath shaking. "That's not the patrol." "No," he growled, tugging her forward. "That's Elder Varric." He came himself. Her blood ran cold. Elder Varric didn't intervene in small matters. He only left the council chambers when the pack's laws were broken, or when something powerful threatened tradition itself. And a girl shifting early was powerful. Dangerous. Unnatural. "Alara," Kieran snapped, pulling her harder. "Move." She stumbled but ran with him, branches clawing her arms, stones slicing her feet. Behind them, the forest lit with the glow of torches, dozens of them. Figures moved swiftly between trees, their robes sweeping like shadows. The elders weren't just searching, they were pursuing. "Kieran," a voice thundered, ancient enough to warp the wind. "Bring the girl forward," Alara's heart thrashed. Kieran snarled, "Over my dead body." They broke through a thicket into a clearing she'd seen only once before, the place where the frostblood wolves train their young. Moonlight spilled across trampled earth, illuminating old claw marks and broken stones. Kieran shoved her behind him the moment they stopped. "Stay close to my back," he ordered, chest rising and falling in sharp, furious breaths. "But no," he didn't turn, his voice didn't shake. "If they want to take you, they'll have to get through me." Torches emerged from the forest's edge, ringing the clearing. Robed figures stepped forward, forming a semicircle, silent, hooded, their scent heavy with old laws and cold magic. Then Elder Varric appeared, tall, white-haired, eyes like polished bone. His aura pressed against Alara's lungs until she struggled to breathe. He lifted a hand. The girl violated sacred law. Kieran's wolf surged beneath his skin. Alara felt the heat of it rolling off him. She shifted early, Kieran said, voice low, controlled but cracking. That's not a crime. Her wolf awakened without ritual, Varric replied. That makes her unstable. She's not unstable, she's scared. Let her speak then. Varric's gaze speared through the dark. Child, step forward. Alara's nails dug into Kieran's shirt. Don't let go, she whispered, and something inside him snapped. Kieran lowered his voice so only she could hear. I'm not letting anything take you, not the elders, not the laws, not fate. Before she could respond, Varric lifted his staff and slammed it into the ground. Light burst outward in a ring, cold, white, burning. Kieran shoved her behind him again, teeth bared, eyes glowing silver. That is enough, he roared. The elders stiffened. The air trembled. Because the alpha heir wasn't just defying them, he was challenging them. Kieran Frost, Elder Varric said slowly, you stand between the council and a child who is not yours. Kieran's wolf tore through his voice as he growled. She is under my protection. The clearing froze, every torch flickered. Even the elders seemed to waver. Alara's breath caught, not because of what he said, but because of what she felt when he said it, something ancient, something forbidden, something that felt like a bond. Varric's eyes narrowed. Then you have chosen your side. Kieran stepped forward, shoulders broad, wolf rising behind his skin like a storm. I already chose, he said, and it wasn't you. The elders lifted their staffs. Kieran's wolf surged. Alara's heartbeat slammed through her ears, and in the space between one breath and the next, the clearing exploded into war. Kieran hit the ground first. Not because he was weak, because 3 elders struck at once, their combined force slamming into him like a collapsing mountain. Dust kicked up around his body as the shock rippled through the clearing. Alara, run! His voice tore through the chaos, rough, strained, threaded with something she'd never heard from him before. Panic. Her legs refused to obey. The moment the fight erupted, her wolf pushed against her ribs, frantic, clawing to get out. She tasted metal. Her senses prickled. Every breath burned. 3 elders rushed her from the right. Too fast, too coordinated, too prepared. Kieran vaulted back to his feet, shoulder bleeding from a deep slash, eyes almost entirely silver now. The instinct rolling off him wasn't human. It wasn't even royal. It was possessive. He lunged, intercepting the elders before they reached her. His claws tore through roots, soil flying as he knocked 2 robed figures aside. The third struck him with a burst of white energy that sent crackles through the air. Kieran staggered but didn't fall. Touch her again, he growled, and I'll break your vows myself. Elder Varric's voice cut through the clamor. Your wolf is reacting too strongly, Kieran. Step away from the girl. Kieran didn't turn. My wolf reacts how it chooses, not when it threatens the pack. Alara felt the weight of every gaze shift toward her, evaluating, judging, measuring her worth against old laws. Her lungs tightened. This was why early shifters were feared. Their wolves woke without guidance. Without control, without certainty they belonged to the pack and not the wild. Her wolf shoved again, nearly knocking her to her knees. Stop, please, not now. But the instincts humming under her skin refused to listen. When she looked at Kieran, something inside her surged, a pull she didn't understand, a heat rising under her palms, and Varric noticed. His attention sharpened. So that's it, Kieran snapped. Don't you go near her. Your wolf isn't simply protective, Varric replied slowly. It's reacting to her. Alara's spine went rigid. Kieran froze. The clearing seemed to hold its breath. Varric lifted his staff. You sense something you should not. Alara took a step back, throat tightening. I didn't do anything, that's the problem. Varric's voice deepened. He reacted without your doing. Kieran turned his head just enough for her to see the conflict in his eyes, heat, fear, fury tangled into something raw. Alara, he breathed, don't move. Another group of elders emerged from the trees, sealing the last exit. Her pulse thudded against her ears. Kieran's wolf thrashed under his skin. Varric pointed the staff toward her. Child, you will come with us now. Kieran stepped in front of her again. She's not going anywhere. Varric gave him a long, heavy look. You risk exile. That's better than letting you take her. Kieran, she choked out, don't. A crack tore the air, loud, violent. Kieran fell to one knee. A ring of binding light glowed beneath him, anchoring his limbs to the earth. Magic crawled up his arms like frostbite. Kieran! Alara rushed forward, but an elder blocked her path. Varric raised his hand. Enough of this chaos. Then he spoke the words that made Kieran's head snap up with a fury she had never seen. The girl will be restrained until we determine the nature of your connection. Her wolf lunged, heat ripping through her spine. Kieran growled her name, not in warning, in desperation. Alara, don't shift here, don't. But it was too late. Her bones cracked, her vision blurred. Her wolf burst free, silver and blazing as the elders recoiled. And Kieran's restraint shattered with a sound like breaking stars. The ground split beneath her paws. Her wolf didn't ease out of her body, it tore through, wild with panic and heat and an instinct she had never felt so fiercely. The air tasted sharper, every sound vibrated through her bones. She staggered once, unused to the strength, and then steadied as the forest unfolded into vivid layers of scent and movement. The elders drew back, not because she was dangerous, because she was new, unpredictable, untethered. A newly awakened wolf was a storm without a direction. Alara! Kieran's voice hit her like a flare, not with dominance, not with command, with something strained and primal. He was still fighting the binding light crawling over him, muscles locked, breath escaping through clenched teeth. The glow flickered each time her wolf focused on him, as if the magic bent under the pressure of whatever thread pulsed between them. She padded toward him, low and instinctive, her wolf recognizing a pull she didn't have a name for. Stay back, Kieran managed, jaw set against pain. They'll turn on you. But her wolf ignored him. 3 elders stepped between them. Keep her contained, Varric ordered. If she bolts or bites, suppress her. Suppress. Words scraped across her senses like metal on bone. Her wolf's hackles rose, a low warning rumble building in her throat. The elders responded instantly, spreading out, staffs angled, runes glowing. Kieran's body snapped taut against the restraints. Don't touch her. Varric didn't look at him. Your reaction tells us everything. Your wolf is unstable. You're provoking him, Kieran ground out. Stand down. His reaction, another elder cut in. Look at her, the girl's aura is flaring. She's losing control. Losing control. Alara's wolf wanted to laugh. She had never felt clearer. She could smell the fear they hid behind their robes. She could hear the hitch in Varric's breath when her eyes locked on him. She could sense Kieran fighting the magic with a fury meant only for one purpose, to get to her. That should have terrified her. Instead, her wolf pressed forward, drawn to him like he was a fire she needed to touch to understand. One of the elders moved. Too close. Too fast. Her wolf struck not with teeth, but a defensive swipe that sent the elder stumbling. Gasps erupted around them. Staffs lifted in unison. Alara! Kieran roared, the ring of light around him fracturing. Get away from them! But she attacks, Varric snapped. She proves she is a threat. Kieran's head lifted. His teeth bared, not wolf, not human, something between. You provoked her. Varric raised his staff. Kieran's restraints flared. Alara's wolf snapped her gaze to the elder leader, and something in her vision shivered. A thin, bright line connected her to Kieran. Not a mark, not a bond, something older, unspoken, incomplete. Varric noticed the way she moved, how her wolf angled toward Kieran, how the air between them thrummed, his expression curdled. No, he muttered, impossible. An elder beside him whispered, It can't be forming, not with her. Forming, her wolf's breath hitched. Kieran's head jerked toward her, instinct reacting faster than thought. He saw something in her eyes, something that made the binding ring around him splinter further. Varric snapped his staff forward. Sever it, Kieran surged. The ground cracked beneath him. The binding light burst apart in a cascade of sparks as he tore free with a snarl that didn't belong to a prince. It belonged to a wolf whose instincts had finally snapped. He launched himself between her and the elders, shielding her with his entire body. His shoulders shook with the force of his breathing, but he didn't waver. Alara, he rasped. Listen to me, stay behind me. I don't care what they do. I'm not letting them break anything between us. Between us? Her wolf leaned against his leg, drawn to the heat of him, the certainty of him. The elders braced. Varric lifted his staff again. You force our hand, Kieran Frost. Stand down or... Kieran lowered his stance, ready to strike. Try, he said. One more time. The clearing tightened like a held breath, and somewhere deep inside Alara, her wolf whispered a single, startling truth. He wasn't just defending her. He was reacting like she already belonged to him. The elders didn't know what to do. That was the first shift in the clearing, the flicker of uncertainty behind their rigid discipline. They had expected a frightened girl and an heir who still feared their authority. Instead, they faced a new wolf bristling with raw power, and an alpha heir whose instincts refused to obey the laws he was born to uphold. Kieran positioned himself in front of Alara fully now, one hand angled behind him, fingers brushing the fur along her neck, calming, grounding, claiming without even realizing it. His breath came hard, shallow, the aftershock of breaking the binding spell still shaking through him. "Kieran," Elder Saren warned, "move aside." "Not happening." Her wolf leaned into him, not helpless, not submitting, but pulled by a force she didn't have the words to understand. Kieran's jaw tightened when she touched him, his spine going rigid as if fighting some instinct deeper than duty. "Alara," he murmured, quieter, "don't bolt. If you run, they'll chase. If they chase," his voice rasped, "I won't hold back." A tremor moved through him that shook her wolf to stillness. The elders regrouped, adjusting their stances, forming a crescent around the two of them. Varric stepped forward, expression cold enough to cut through the air. "Kieran Frost," he declared, "your behavior confirms our worst fears." "Your fears," Kieran shot back, "are based on laws older than half these trees." "The laws kept this pack alive," Varric replied. "No," Kieran said. "Strength did, loyalty did, wolves like her did." The elders stiffened. Varric's eyes narrowed. "You speak as if she belongs here. She does not. A wolf who shifts early is unstable. A wolf whose aura tangles with yours this quickly is..." "Enough!" Kieran's voice cracked through the clearing like a physical strike. Alara's wolf went still, eyes locked on him. He wasn't trembling from anger. He was trembling from control, fighting his own instincts while standing between her and the elders who saw her as a threat. A younger elder stepped forward. "You're letting instinct cloud your judgment." Kieran didn't even look at him. "Instinct kept every wolf here alive." "You taught us that in training." "That instinct," Varric countered, "must never override the council." "Then maybe the council should stop provoking it." For a heartbeat silence. Then Varric raised his staff higher. "Last warning, move aside." Her wolf snarled before Kieran could speak. A warning, a barrier, a refusal. Varric's gaze snapped to her. "And there it is. See how she reacts without command, how she pushes toward him, how her aura flares whenever you draw near." He angled his staff. "This is exactly why early shifters are dangerous. Their wolves latch onto whatever power they sense first. It is not genuine connection, it is instability." Alara's wolf bristled. Kieran made a low sound deep in his chest, something primal enough the elders took half a step back. "She isn't unstable," Kieran said, voice roughening. "She's responding." "To what?" Varric challenged. Kieran didn't answer, but his hand spread across her fur as if his body needed the contact to breathe. The ground beneath them vibrated faintly, his wolf rising again. Alara felt something tug between them, a warm line of pressure that wasn't magic, wasn't instinct, wasn't anything the elders had words for. But her wolf recognized it. Not a bond, not complete, not spoken, but forming. Varric must have seen the awareness sharpen in her posture because his expression twisted. "It is not possible," he muttered. "Not with her bloodline." Bloodline? The word sliced through Alara like a cold blade. Before she could process it, Varric barked, "Now!" 5 elders moved at once. Staffs glowed. Magic surged. Kieran reacted faster than thought, fury igniting like steel meeting fire. He grabbed Alara by the scruff, pulling her tight to his side as he launched forward in a blur of strength that didn't belong to someone half-shifted. Energy slammed into the ground where they had stood, blowing earth into the air. Kieran twisted, shielding her with his entire body. A bolt struck his shoulder instead of her, his grunt sharp, breath ripping from him, but he stayed upright. He didn't let go, he didn't even loosen his grip. Another blast hit close. Dirt sprayed across their legs. Kieran shoved her behind him again, but his hand stayed tangled in her fur, refusing to lose contact even for a second. "Kieran, stop," Saren shouted. "You're escalating. They're attacking a new wolf," Kieran roared. "And you expect me to stand still?" Varric pointed his staff at Alara. "We'll suppress her before she hurts someone." That word again. Suppress. Kieran's head snapped toward him and something in his eyes, not silver, not human, finally broke loose. "No one touches her." Varric lifted the staff, and Kieran lunged. He moved too fast for the elders to counter, slamming into Varric's strike and knocking the staff aside. A shockwave burst outward, light scattering like shattered glass. Kieran staggered but didn't fall. His wolf was fully in his gaze now, feral, protective, claiming without permission. "Alara," he said, breath shaking, "I need you to run when I tell you, not before." Her wolf pressed to his leg, no fear, only heat, trust. "And Kieran," Varric said darkly, lifting the staff again. Kieran turned half toward Alara. "Stay with me." Then he faced the elders fully. His voice dropped, iron hard. "You are not taking her." The magic circle beneath the elders brightened. And the forest itself seemed to recoil as the alpha heir's instinct finally snapped its last restraint. The forest swallowed them whole. Kieran didn't slow until the shouts behind them blurred into distant echoes. Branches whipped past. Dirt clung to her fur. His hand never left her scruff, not gripping to control her, but anchoring her, as if the contact steadied something in him that had been unsteady for years. Only when the torches finally vanished did he drag to a halt, chest heaving, blood sliding down his shoulder in dark streaks. "Ilara, shift back," he rasped. Her wolf didn't want to. Every instinct clung to the form that felt safest, wildest hers. But Kieran's voice carried a strain she had never heard from him, not anger, not command. Worry, a quiet, fraying worry. She pressed against him once before letting the change pull her bones inward. Fur receded, limbs reshaped. The earth cooled beneath her bare feet as she rose unsteadily in her human skin. Kieran immediately shrugged off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. He didn't ask if she was cold. He didn't look away either. He just moved fast and focused, as if shielding her from the world was the only thing his body knew how to do. "You shouldn't have shifted there," he said, voice low but not harsh. "They'll use this against you." "They attacked you," she replied, breath still uneven. "What was I supposed to do?" "Stand still." His jaw flexed, not with anger, but with something he didn't want to admit. "You were supposed to survive." The words sat between them, raw and unpolished. She tightened the jacket around herself. "You think I would?" Kieran stepped closer, so close she could smell the iron of his blood and the forest crushed beneath his boots. "I think they would have killed you just to prove they could." Her breath hitched at that, not from fear, but from how fiercely he believed it. He reached out, hesitated, then brushed a leaf out of her hair with a touch gentler than anything he'd shown all night. His fingers trembled just once. "You weren't meant to shift this early," he murmured. The clearing around them quieted. A few night insects clicked softly. Far above, the moon had dipped behind a cloud, leaving the world dimmer, blunter. "And that makes me dangerous?" she asked. His eyes lifted to hers. "No, just unclaimed." She froze. "Kieran, that's not, damn it, that's not what I meant." He dragged a hand through his hair, leaving streaks of dirt. "Early wolves need guidance, support, a pack that doesn't look at them like a threat. They never gave me that." "I know." He exhaled slowly, the breath shaking at the edges. "You grew a wolf alone. Do you understand how hard that is? Most pups hear their wolf years before the first shift. You heard nothing until tonight. That's Ilara, that's impossible." Her throat tightened. Because she had heard something quiet, fleeting, buried deep, but she had always been told it was imagination, weakness, a wish for something she didn't deserve. She swallowed. "I didn't think I'd ever have a wolf." Kieran's face changed, not pity, recognition, like a memory had cracked through something inside him. "Ilara," his voice dropped. "Who told you that?" She didn't answer. The truth was louder in silence than in words. Everyone, teachers, elders. Even her own mother, in quiet moments she probably regretted. Kieran took a single step forward, closing the gap entirely. "You were never weak," he said quietly. "They made you believe you were." The night wrapped around them, dense, dark, listening. His gaze moved down to her hands, still trembling faintly from the shift. He lifted one, slow enough she could pull away if she wanted. She didn't. "When your wolf came out," he said, "she didn't hesitate. She panicked. She protected you." He met her eyes. "Protected me." Heat pricked behind her ribs. She hated how quickly her chest tightened at the memory of him collapsing under the elders' restraints, fighting not for dominance, but for her. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. "Which part?" A broken laugh at the edges. "Defying the council, breaking magic I'm not trained for, throwing myself in front of 5 elders like an idiot. All of it." He stepped closer. "Then I'd do it again." "Why?" The word escaped before she could swallow it. "Why are you risking everything for me?" Kieran didn't answer right away. His gaze lowered, brief, toward her mouth, then returned sharply to her eyes. Something crashed through his expression, something he tried to hide and failed. "Ilara, something is happening between us." His voice barely carried. "I don't know what it is yet, but my wolf, he reacts to you in ways I can't explain." Her breath stilled. Not a confession, not a vow, more like a truth that scared him. Before she could respond, the underbrush snapped somewhere behind them, heavy, purposeful footsteps cutting through the quiet. Kieran instantly moved in front of her again, body coiled, wolf rising beneath his skin like a shadow ready to break free. "Ilara," he murmured, "stay behind me." She did, not because of fear, but because she could feel through the soil and the air and the trees that whoever approached wasn't a patrol. It was something worse. A familiar scent reached them first. Cold, metallic, wrong. Kieran's shoulders squared. "Perfect timing," he muttered. "Of all the nights." A figure stepped into the moonlight. Not an elder, not one of their pack, someone she had prayed never to see again. someone who should not be anywhere near Frostblood territory. And the moment their eyes landed on her, Alara's wolf bared her teeth in recognition. The night was colder than it should have been. Asha felt it the moment she stepped out of the training cabin, an unnatural chill that crept under her skin, raising every instinct she had tried her whole life to silence. Her wolf. It paced again, restless, too close to the surface for comfort. Not now, please not now. But the bond, whatever fragile, unwanted thread tied her to the alpha, was still humming in her veins from earlier. Kieran had touched her, had defended her, had let his wolf rise in broad daylight for her. That was enough to destabilize the thin cage she kept around her own other half. She wrapped her cloak tighter, but the forest was not empty. A twig snapped, not loud, not threatening, but enough to make her breath stutter. She didn't turn, didn't look, just kept walking, pretending she didn't know exactly who followed. Kieran's voice broke the darkness anyway. Asha! Her heart dropped, slow, soft, but filled with a warning he wasn't trying to hide anymore. She didn't face him. Go back, Alpha. I told you I need space. You need to stop running every time you feel something. Her hands clenched. It's not feeling something, it's... Your wolf, he finished, stepping closer. I noticed. Her spine locked. He wasn't supposed to say it. No one was supposed to notice. She'd spent her entire childhood ensuring no scent slipped, no aura leaked, no eye color flickered. But tonight she'd slipped. Don't, she whispered. Don't talk about it. Kieran exhaled sharply behind her as if fighting his own instincts. You think I didn't smell it, he said, voice low, rough around the edges. You think I didn't feel it. Your wolf brushed mine, Asha. Wolves don't lie. Her knees almost buckled. Stop, she breathed, because if he kept talking, she might break. Kieran took another step, closer than the rules allowed, closer than she had ever let anyone stand. When I touched you today, he said, voice sinking into something dangerous, my wolf reacted as if it finally found the thing I've been denying for years. Asha swallowed hard. The way you trembled, the way your heart sped up, Asha, you think I'm blind. Her pulse raced so fast it hurt. She forced a small, brittle laugh. It was nothing, you're imagining things. Asha, his voice deepened. Look at me. She didn't. Look at me, he said again, this time alpha command threading the edges. Her wolf surged, pushing against her ribs. Damn him. Slowly, painfully, she turned. Kieran stood only a few feet away, chest rising with controlled breaths, eyes darker than she'd ever seen, wolf dark, storm dark, not fully shifted, not fully human, something in between, something dangerous. He studied her as if memorizing every flinch, every breath she tried to hide. You're scared, he said quietly, but not of me. She didn't deny it. You're scared of what you are, he continued. Of the wolf you're trying to bury. She jerked her head away. You don't know anything about my wolf. You're wrong. His voice dropped to a whisper. I know it wants out, I can feel it. Her wolf slammed against her chest. Don't betray me. Kieran stepped close enough that their breaths mingled. Asha, what are you? He whispered, not accusing, aching. She took a step back, but his wolf surged forward, eyes flashing silver like a storm ripping open the night. Not at her, at the space between them, at the distance she tried to create. A warning, a claim, her breath broke. Kieran saw her reaction. His jaw tightened. He spoke without thinking, as if truth was dragged from deep inside him. My wolf knows yours, he said, even if you refuse to. Asha's eyes burned, not with tears, but with something wild, something she had never allowed to surface. You don't understand, she whispered. Then make me. Her throat closed, because the truth was dangerous, forbidden. And if she spoke it, everything she had built, every secret, every lie would collapse. Asha, Kieran said softly, tell me. She opened her mouth. A branch cracked violently in the woods behind them. Both of them froze, someone was in the forest, and whatever it wasn't friendly. Kieran's wolf snapped to the surface instantly, protective and deadly. Asha, he growled, stepping in front of her, get behind me. But her wolf, the one she was never allowed to have, rose slowly, silently, pushing forward like a shadow waking after a lifetime of sleep. And Asha whispered the one thing she had sworn she would never admit aloud. Kieran, it's too late to protect me. Her eyes glowed. Silver. Alive. Awakened. The forest went silent. Not the normal kind of quiet. This was the kind that settled before a killing strike, where even the wind held its breath. Kieran's wolf pushed to the surface so fast the air trembled with it. His eyes were fully silver now, the alpha's warning glow. One more step and he would partially shift. Asha didn't move behind him. She couldn't, because the presence in the woods wasn't coming for them. It was coming because of her. The branches ahead rustled again, slow, heavy, deliberate. A scent drifted through the air, sharp and wrong like wet earth and old blood. Kieran stiffened. Rogue! No, Asha whispered. Not just any rogue. He shot her a quick, confused glance, but she didn't look away from the trees. More snapping, more rustling, something too large to be human edged closer. Kieran stepped forward, shielding her with his whole body. Stay behind me. Asha didn't listen. Her wolf was awake, fully awake, and something inside her pulsed with recognition, with an ancient fear she didn't know she carried. That thing isn't here for you, she murmured. Kieran's voice turned lethal. Then who? For me. The shape finally emerged, half-shifted, twisted, its bones cracked wrong, its wolf form unstable and feral. Its eyes glowed a sickly red, not natural, not born, altered, corrupted. The creature snarled, but the moment it locked onto Asha, its aggression changed. The snarl softened into something like submission, as if recognizing her. Kieran noticed. His rage was instant. The hell? Why is it reacting to you? Asha didn't answer, because the creature wasn't just reacting to her, it was bowing. Its head lowered, its breath hitched like it was sensing a higher wolf, an older power. Kieran stepped in front of her again, growling. Move back, Asha. No, she said, voice trembling but steady. It won't attack me. You don't know that. I do. Kieran glanced back at her and saw it, her eyes, no longer human, no longer dim at the edges, now fully silver, bright, commanding. It wasn't fear in Kieran's expression now, it was shock. Asha, his voice cracked. Your wolf, what are you? Flinched. Not because of his question, but because the corrupted creature let out a sound, half whimper, half growl, and stepped closer to her, ignoring the alpha completely. Kieran snapped. He shifted halfway, claws ripping from his fingers, canines extending, muscles tightening beneath his skin. Asha, get away from it now. She shook her head. I can calm it. You can't. I can. And before he could stop her, she stepped around him and approached the creature. Asha, he barked, voice breaking from panic. But she didn't turn. She moved slowly, carefully, letting her wolf push to the front of her consciousness, not fully shifting, but letting her aura unfurl. It rolled out of her in a wave she'd never felt before, warm, ancient, powerful. The creature froze, its breathing softened. Its posture sank lower, tail tucked, head dropped to the ground as if she were alpha. Above alpha, something older, something forbidden. Kieran stared, stunned, his wolf stunned. What the hell? He whispered. Asha raised her hand toward the creature. It's okay, she murmured softly. I won't hurt you. The corrupted wolf nuzzled her palm, and that's when she finally understood. Not why she had no pack scent, not why her wolf was impossible to hide, not why rogues never attacked her even when she was defenseless. She wasn't a normal wolf. She wasn't a wolf at all. Asha swallowed hard and whispered the truth she had feared since childhood. Kieran, I'm not like you. He didn't breathe. I never was. Before he could ask anything, before she could explain, the creature suddenly jerked its head up, ears twitching. Another presence, strong, wrong, familiar. Asha stiffened. There's more of them. Kieran's claws dug into the earth. Then we run. No, she said, eyes glowing brighter. They're here for me, running won't stop them. Asha, it's time you knew, she whispered. And then the trees exploded as 3 more corrupted wolves broke through the brush, surrounding them in a circle, all of them bowing to her. Kieran's voice cracked, raw with realization and fear and awe. Asha, what are you? She opened her mouth, her wolf roared inside her. And the answer would change everything. The circle tightened. 4 corrupted wolves, their breathing uneven, their bones shifting beneath stretched skin. They didn't attack. They waited, heads lowered, bodies trembling the way starving beasts tremble when they're torn between instinct and obedience. Asha stood in the center of them, the glow in her eyes flickering like a pulse. Kieran stepped to her side, half shifted still, his voice roughened by his wolf. Don't move, they're unpredictable. They're reacting to me, she said quietly. That's what scares me. Another branch cracked deeper in the woods. Kieran snapped his head toward the sound, a low rumble building in his chest. The wolves flinched at him, but the moment their gaze returned to Asha, their posture melted into submission again. Kieran, she nudged him with her shoulder, subtle. Look at how they're positioned. He did. Not closing in, shielding her, a protective pattern. He shook his head once hard. That doesn't make sense. It does, she whispered. Just not in a way I can explain yet. His jaw worked, not with anger this time, but with the weight of too many possibilities. If they're following you, Asha, corrupted wolves don't follow anyone. Unless they're not corrupted by choice. A rustle from above. Kieran reacted instantly, grabbing her waist and pulling her under the shelter of a fallen log. One of the creatures leapt in front of them, fangs bared at the treetops. Something shifted overhead, swift, heavy, deliberate, then vanished. Kieran's breathing steadied into something cold and controlled. We're being watched, Asha nodded. Not by them. He turned to her, eyes no longer silver but steel hard. Tell me what you know. Her fingers curled into the moss. She felt her wolf press against her ribs, restless, uneasy. There were memories at the edge of her mind, flashes of a room she had never entered awake, voices whispering through fog, a woman's silhouette bending over her as a child. She didn't know how to explain a truth she didn't fully remember. "Pieces," she said softly. "Not enough yet." Kieran's expression tightened, but he didn't push. That alone made her chest ache. He'd been trained to demand obedience. Yet with her, he held back. A growl rippled through the corrupted wolves. All four turned toward the same direction, east, deeper into the forest where the ground dipped into old territory lines. Kieran followed their gaze, then cursed under his breath. "They're hurting us." Ashaz stiffened. "Where?" "Toward the border," he said. "Toward the old Silverfall grounds." Her breath caught, not the romantic kind of breathlessness, just the instinctive jolt of recognizing a name never spoken around her. Silverfall. The pack that vanished when she was a baby, burned out. Erased from every archive, no survivors, except Kieran rose to a crouch, scanning the dark. Someone's manipulating them, someone who wants you there. One of the corrupted wolves nudged Ashaz's hand. A gentle, hesitant push, almost pleading. Ashaz met Kieran's eyes. "I think they want to lead me. I'm not letting you walk into that place alone." "You won't," she said, "but I need to go." Kieran's stare held a war, duty, fear, instinct, something softer threaded beneath it. "Then we move now." "Whatever's watching won't wait long." Ashaz nodded. She rose. The corrupted wolves instantly shifted formation, two ahead, two behind an escort. Kieran positioned himself beside her, muscles coiled, senses sharp, every step a promise he'd fight whatever waited ahead. As they moved deeper into the forest, the air changed, cooler, thinner, threaded with something metallic. Ashaz's wolf stretched inside her, not in fear, but in recognition. Her chest tightened. "I've been here before," she whispered. Kieran slowed. "When?" She shook her head. "I don't know." A howl broke the night, deep, resonant, and unmistakably familiar to Kieran. His shoulders locked. "That was Beta Rowan," he murmured, "and he sounds injured." The corrupted wolves bristled. Ashaz felt her pulse thrum with a new, sharper fear, not for herself, but for the man beside her. "Kieran," she whispered, "we're too late." He looked at her, eyes shifting silver again, not from rage, from instinct breaking loose. "Stay close, Ashaz. Whatever's out here, it just crossed into my territory." And then he sprinted forward, leaving no room for hesitation. Kieran tore through the underbrush, movement sharp and efficient despite the uneven ground. His body stayed half-shifted, claws extended just enough to grip the soil. Ashaz followed close behind, the corrupted wolves gliding around them in eerie synchronicity. Every time she stumbled, one of the creatures slowed to match her pace. Kieran noticed. His eyes flicked back, confusion cutting through the urgency. "They're guarding you like pack." Her breath hitched. "I know. That shouldn't be possible." Another howl rang out Rowan again, but weaker this time. The sound wavered, as if something pressed against his throat mid-call. Ashaz pushed forward. "We have to reach him." Kieran didn't argue. He surged ahead, slipping between narrow trunks and ducking low branches with reflexes that would have seemed impossible if she hadn't grown up watching wolves move through forests. But Kieran wasn't just fast, he was focused. Every shift of his ears, every tilt of his head, he charted threats she couldn't yet sense. "Fog," he muttered, slowing. A strange haze drifted across the forest floor, too dense, too sudden, moving against the wind. Ashaz inhaled, her wolf recoiled. "Kieran, that isn't normal mist." He crouched, scanning the ground. "Scent," she shook her head. "It's empty, it's hiding whatever we should smell." A tactic she didn't know wolves could perform. A tactic someone trained them for. Kieran rose slowly. "Stay right behind me." But the corrupted wolves moved first. All four stepped into the fog without hesitation, forming a barrier between them and whatever lay ahead. Ashaz reached toward one, fingers brushing its shoulder. The creature shivered beneath her touch, not from fear, but something like relief. Her voice dropped. "They're not resisting whoever controls them. They're resisting everything else." Kieran studied her, a line of tension forming between his brows. "Ashaz, how are you influencing them?" "I'm not," she whispered. "They're responding on their own." "To what?" She couldn't say it. Not yet. Not with memories lurking just out of reach and instincts she didn't fully understand. Before she could answer, a shape lunged out of the fog. Kieran spun, claws out, catching the attacker mid-air. The impact shook the ground beneath them, bark raining from the nearest tree. Shad jumped back as Kieran pinned the figure down, not a wolf. A man. One of Ridgewalk's border patrollers, breathing in ragged bursts, his arms covered in deep gouges. His eyes were wide with terror, chest heaving as if he'd been running from something that hadn't given him a breath of rest. "Kieran," he gasped. Beta Rowan, he's not. A hiss cut through the fog. The patroller's entire body locked in shock. Asha felt her heartbeat stutter. That wasn't a wolf. That sound belonged to something far older. Something trained to stalk, not chase. Kieran hauled the patroller to his feet. "Where S. Rowan?" The man pointed with a trembling hand. Dragged the old clearing, something grabbed him, couldn't see, fog came out of nowhere. The corrupted wolves growled in unison, ears flattening, bodies angled toward the direction the patroller had indicated. Kieran swore under his breath. "Someone wants us split up." Asha's stomach tightened. "Then we stay together." "We will." Kieran took a step toward her, protective, instinctive. "I'm not letting you near that clearing without me." The patroller grabbed Kieran's forearm. "It's a trap," Kieran answered without hesitation. "I know." The fog thickened, curling around their legs like fingers. Asha's wolf pushed against her ribs, a low, constant pressure, urging her toward the old clearing, toward something that frightened her more than anything else tonight. Not danger, recognition. She swallowed hard. "Kieran." "Whoever's doing this isn't after Rowan." His eyes flicked to her. "Then who?" She met his gaze, me, but she couldn't say it aloud, not with the patroller trembling next to them, not when she didn't even know why. Instead, she stepped closer to Kieran, lowering her voice. "Whatever S waiting in that clearing, it'll expect us unprepared." Kieran's expression sharpened. "Good." He flexed his claws. "Let's disappoint it." And together, surrounded by corrupted wolves and choking fog, they stepped toward the clearing where an unseen enemy waited, with Rowan as bait. The clearing emerged from the fog like a wound, open, raw, the ground carved with drag marks that cut straight through a bed of trampled leaves. Kieran inhaled sharply. "Rowan's blood." Asha crouched beside the trail. The metallic scent thinned as it reached the center, as if something had masked it on purpose. She brushed her fingers against the dirt, feeling the faint tremor under the soil, an echo of movement, not natural, almost rhythmic. Kieran joined her, lowering his voice. "Careful!" Asha didn't answer. Her wolf surged forward, nudging her attention toward a broken tree trunk on the far side. Its bark had been clawed upward, vertical, clean, far too precise for a panicked scuffle. That was territory marking. Old pack style, extinct pack style, Silverfall. Her breath thinned. "Kieran." "That mark, I see it." His tone hardened, but not with anger, with dread he wouldn't name. "No one uses that pattern, no one alive." Asha moved closer, fingers hovering over the grooves. Her skin prickled with something close to recognition. Not memory, more like standing in a house you'd left before you learned to walk. Behind them, the corrupted wolves paced restlessly, circling the perimeter as if expecting an ambush. The patroller whispered, "We should go back. This place isn't right." Kieran didn't even turn. "You're not leaving." The fog curled tighter around the clearing's edges, forming a rough boundary. Asha noticed something new, a faint shimmer at the tree line, almost like heat wavering off stone. A barrier, invisible to most wolves, not to her. "Kieran," she pointed. "Something's shielding the clearing." He narrowed his eyes but didn't see it. "Explain." She opened her mouth, but movement snapped her attention left. A body slumped against a boulder. "Rowan." Kieran broke into a sprint. Asha followed, the corrupted wolves darting ahead of them. They reached Rowan within seconds. He was alive, barely breathing in shallow, uneven pulls. Scratches lined his ribs, deep enough to bleed but not deep enough to kill. Not meant to kill, meant to delay. Kieran knelt, lifting Rowan's head gently. "Hey, stay with me, what happened?" Rowan's eyelids fluttered. His voice was hoarse, raw. "Too fast, couldn't see. Something on 2 legs, not rogue, not wolf." Asha froze. 2 legs, not wolf. Her wolf trembled. Kieran steadied Rowan's head. "Did you see a face?" Rowan's breathing hitched. "No face, mask." His hand clenched weakly in Kieran's sleeve. They wanted her." The patroller gasped. Kieran's entire body went rigid, not with shock, but with fury held so tight it barely had space to breathe. "Asha is under my protection," he said quietly. The clearing responded. Branches rustled without wind. Fine particles of fog shivered upward, drawing into a thin line in front of them, like someone slicing the air with an invisible blade. Then a voice echoed from the trees, low, distorted, genderless. She was promised. Asha's spine locked. Kieran rose to his full height, Rowan protected behind him. "Show yourself." The corrupted wolves slammed into formation, snarling in perfect unison, eyes fixed on the shimmer Asha had noticed earlier. The voice drifted again, colder this time. "She returns with her wolf awake, as foretold." Asha stepped forward before she realized she'd moved. "Who are you?" A pause, a long, calculated pause, then "Someone who knows what you carry." Her stomach tightened. "Tell me." The barrier shimmered, almost pulsing. Something was trying to step through but couldn't, not fully. "Silverfall never died." Asha's breath faltered. Kieran shifted instantly, placing himself between her and the voice. "You're lying. Your pack burned bodies, not truth." Asha spoke again, her voice steadier than she expected. "If Silverfall survived, why come after me?" Silence. "Then because you were stolen." Kieran inhaled sharply. Asha didn't move. The voice continued, each word slicing deeper. "And because the wolf-born heir cannot remain hidden." Her wolf lunged inside her chest, recognition, fear, longing, all tangled so tightly she couldn't separate one from another. The patroller stumbled back. "Heir!" Kieran turned to Asha, not with disbelief, with dawning horror. "You're Silverfall's heir." She felt the world tilt, not metaphorically, but as a physical lurch in her balance, her wolf pushing against her ribcage like it wanted out now. She couldn't answer. She didn't know the answer. Then the barrier tore open with a violent rip, just enough for a masked figure to step through, tall, cloaked, moving like someone who had practiced walking silently through forests their entire life. The corrupted wolves roared and lunged. The figure raised a hand. They froze mid-stride. Asha's breath caught in her throat, not from fear, from recognition so deep it hurt. The figure extended their hand to her. "Asha, come home." Kieran snarled, voice roughened by his wolf. "She's not going anywhere." The masked figure tilted their head. "Then you will die beside her." The barrier cracked like glass, and the clearing erupted. The barrier shattered with a sound that wasn't sound at all, more like pressure collapsing inward, a pull that dragged the air from their lungs. Asha staggered, gripping a tree trunk as the clearing warped for a heartbeat, shapes bending, fog spiraling back like something inhaling. Kieran moved in front of her so fast the leaves barely stirred. "Stay behind me," he said, voice low, controlled, but his stance betrayed the truth. Every muscle braced for violence. He knew he might not win. The masked figure stepped fully into the clearing. Up close, they were wrong, not monstrous, not grotesque. Wrong in the way a familiar song turns sour, a memory twists into something else. Their presence pressed at Asha's wolf, not threatening, but pulling. Recognition burned behind her ribs, sharp and unwelcome. Kieran didn't flinch. "Take one more step toward her," he warned, "and I'll tear that mask off your skull." The figure didn't react to the threat. Their attention stayed on Asha. "You feel it," they said softly through the distortion. "Your wolf remembers." Asha's pulse quickened. She hated that he was right. Her wolf was pacing, tail low, ears forward, not afraid, searching. "For what?" she whispered under her breath. Kieran heard anyway. "Asha, don't listen to him." Then louder, "Rowan needs medical attention, we're leaving." The corrupted wolves blocked the exit paths at the same moment the masked figure raised their hand. Not at Asha this time, at Kieran. His eyes flicked to them. "You will not remove her from this ground," the figure said calmly. Kieran's voice dropped into a tone Asha had only heard when he was seconds from shifting fully. "Watch me," he launched forward. A flash of movement, too swift for the eye. The masked figure struck the ground with their palm. A shockwave rippled outward, throwing Kieran sideways with brute force. His body crashed into a tree trunk, splintering bark, knocking the breath out of him. "Kieran!" Asha ran toward him, but the corrupted wolves blocked her path, not aggressively, defensively. Their bodies curved to shield her from both men. She felt her eyes widen. "What are you doing? Move." They didn't. The masked figure spoke again. "They were conditioned to respond to your aura. They will not let harm reach you." Kieran pushed himself up, wiping blood from the corner of his mouth. He ignored the pain and growled at the figure, voice deepening. "Asha, don't go near him." The figure turned their head slightly. "He is afraid. He should be." Asha stepped sideways, just enough to see both of them. "What do you want from me?" "Truth," the figure answered simply. "That isn't an answer." The figure lifted their chin. "Your parents hid you. Ridgewalk claimed you, but blood calls to blood, and your wolf is no longer silent." Their voice softened. "We have looked for you since the night Silverfall burned." A cold ripple ran through her. "Silverfall didn't burn by accident." "No," the figure agreed. "It burned because of you." Kieran's reaction was immediate. He lunged again, this time with full intent to maim. The figure raised 2 fingers. Kieran stopped mid-stride, not by force, not physically held, but something pressed against him from every direction at once, slowing him as if the air turned to stone. His teeth bared, his voice a rasp. "Asha, don't believe a word." "I'm not," she whispered, though her wolf twisted with uncertainty. The figure lowered their hand, and Kieran collapsed to one knee, panting, claws digging into the soil. Rowan stirred weakly behind them, trying and failing to push himself upright. Ashaz's throat tightened. If Silverfall survived, why hide? Why send masks and fog and this? She gestured to the wolves around them. Because your existence marks the return of our bloodline, the figure said. And because Ridgewalk would slaughter what remains of us to reach you first. Kieran forced himself to his feet again. You're manipulating her. The figure tilted their head. She is awakening. I do not need to manipulate what is already true. Ashaz felt her wolf press outward with a sudden, fierce ache as if clawing for release. The figure took one slow step toward her. Your wolf knows me. Ashaz stepped back, but her wolf pushed forward. Two instincts colliding, two truths battling inside her skin, her voice cracked. Take off the mask. The figure paused. Kieran's breath caught. The corrupted wolves went still. Rowan whispered, barely audible, Ashaz, don't. The figure reached for the mask, and the forest exploded. A massive form burst from the tree line, slamming into the masked figure with brutal force. The impact sent both crashing across the clearing, tearing up dirt and leaves. Ashaz spun toward the shape and her stomach dropped. It wasn't just a wolf. It was a full-shifted alpha-tier beast, fur silver with streaks of shadow, eyes glowing with a predator's sharp intelligence. Kieran's voice broke. Ashaz, run. That's not one of ours. The new wolf roared, a sound that vibrated the ground. The masked figure rose slowly, cloak torn, stance ready. Ashaz realized this wasn't rescue. This wasn't attack. This was a war over her. And it had only just begun. The silence after Kieran's vow wasn't silence at all. It throbbed, like a heartbeat, like a bond waking up beneath ancient ruins and broken promises. Kieran's hand was still wrapped around mine, too warm, too steady, too dangerous, and the glowing blood rune he had carved across his own palm pulsed with slow, furious light. You shouldn't have done that, I whispered. My voice shook, betraying the storm I was trying to hide. A blood oath taken with someone like me, if the council finds out. They won't, he growled, stepping closer. Because no one touches you, not the council, not the elders, not the shadows that stalked you in the forest. No one. His wolf stirred beneath his skin, silver veins spiraling like lightning under the surface. Mine answered without permission, brushing against his aura with a soft, trembling ache. It was the closest my wolf had ever come to surfacing, the closest she had ever been allowed. Kieran noticed. His breath hitched, his head dipping toward me as if pulled by instinct he could no longer restrain. Aurora, she's waking, he murmured, voice roughening. Your wolf, she's trying to come through. Let her. I can't, I forced out. You know I can't, my wolf is. He cut me off with a low, primal sound. A lie you were told so you stay small. Before I could respond, the ground beneath us trembled, not metaphorically, literally. The blood rune at our feet flickered, the old cave walls groaning like something ancient had turned in its sleep. Kieran grabbed my shoulders, pushing me behind him. Stay close. A cold gust swept through the cavern, one that didn't feel natural, one that carried whispers, warnings, threats. The same scent from the night of the attack. Rotten pine, shadowed fur, not wolf. A creature stepped from the darkness, its silhouette tall, mangled, neither man nor wolf. Its eyes glowed a sickly yellow, locked on me as if it had been following the scent of my dormant wolf. Kieran's growl shook the air. You shouldn't have touched her, the creature hissed. The girl who can unmake bloodlines, the sleeper. The forbidden, Kieran launched forward before it finished. Actual claws tore from his hands. His wolf surged to the edge of shifting, half breaking through his skin in raw fury. I watched, heart in my throat, as Alpha Air Kieran Frost fought like something ancient had awakened in him, a beast not born but forged. But the creature wasn't fighting him. It kept trying to get to me. Every time it lunged, its gaze fixed on my chest, on the place where my wolf had stirred for the first time in years. On the part of me the world had convinced me was dead. Kieran, behind you. I cried as the shadow creature fainted and slipped past his guard. It reached me. Its clawed hand brushed my collarbone and my wolf snapped, not fully shifting, not even halfway, just enough. A shockwave ripped from my body, blasting the creature into a stone pillar with enough force to crack it straight through the middle. Kieran froze. The creature froze. Even the cave seemed to hold its breath. Silver light spilled from my skin, from my eyes, from the mark hidden above my heart. Aurora, Kieran whispered. Your wolf isn't weak. I swallowed hard, chest heaving, pulse ricocheting through my ribs. She's not weak, I said, staring at the trembling, broken creature across the cave. She's angry. The creature hissed again, but this time there was fear in its voice. The sleeper wakes, it rasped. The cursed blood rises. The prophecy, Kieran ended its sentence with a clean, brutal strike. Silence followed. Then he turned to me slowly, like he was afraid he might scare me away, and touched my cheek with a hand still shaking from the fight. "You're not broken," he said softly. "You never were." I looked at him, at the blood oath glowing faintly around us, at the body of a monster that had known the truth before I did, at the alpha heir who had just risked his life for a girl the world wrote off as nothing. "Kieran," I whispered. "Say it," he urged gently, stepping close enough that my wolf leaned forward, brushing against his aura with a soft, longing growl. "Say you felt it, say she's still there." I closed my eyes. "My wolf," I breathed, trembling. "She's waking up." And Kieran's voice dropped to a vow. "Then I'll be the one who protects her." Even if the whole world tries to stop us, the forest wasn't supposed to be this quiet. Not after what happened in the ruins. Not after Kieran killed a creature that shouldn't exist. Not after my wolf, my supposedly dead, broken, suppressed wolf, had surged forward like she'd been waiting her entire life for that one moment. But the forest held its breath. Branches leaned inward as if listening. Mist curled low around our ankles, carrying scents that didn't belong to Frostfang territory. Kieran walked beside me, jaw tight, senses sharp. The blood oath still glowed faintly along the scar in his palm, reacting to danger before he even smelled it. "We're not alone," he murmured. "I know." And I did, because my wolf felt it first. A prickle under my skin, a presence watching, not hostile but not safe either. A rustle, a shift of shadow. Then a figure stepped out from behind the ancient pines, a rogue, but not like the usual ones, feral, half-starved, desperate. No, this one moved with purpose, eyes sharp. Body relaxed in a way that made Kieran stiffen instantly. A confidence only someone very old or very powerful carried. "Don't shift," the stranger said, lifting his hand slowly. "I'm not here to fight." Kieran growled anyway, positioning himself in front of me. "Rogues don't walk into Frostfang territory unless they're suicidal." The rogue smirked, gaze flicking to me. "Maybe I came for her." Kieran nearly shifted on the spot. I stepped forward, ignoring his low warning. "What do you want?" The rogue studied me with an unsettling mix of curiosity and recognition. "You felt it, didn't you?" he asked softly. "Something woke inside you." My breath caught. Kieran snarled, "Say another word to her," but the rogue kept talking. "You think the elders hid your wolf by accident. You think the council tested you because they cared." My stomach nodded. He knew something no rogue should. "What are you talking about?" I demanded. The rogue's expression shifted, the smugness fading into something grim, resigned. "They're coming for you," he said quietly. "Not because you're weak." He stepped closer slowly, cautiously, as if approaching a wild creature. "But because your wolf isn't like theirs." My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. Kieran's hand brushed my arm, protective, grounding. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about," the rogue replied. "And so does she." His gaze locked with mine. "It's in your blood, Aurora, in your lineage." The wind shifted. The forest held its breath again. Then the rogue whispered the words that felt like they cracked the world open. "You're not just a wolf. You're the bloodline they swore never to allow to rise again." Kieran froze. My wolf pressed against my skin, trembling, not with fear, with recognition. The rogue lifted his chin. "And I know the truth because I watched them kill every last one of your kind." Asen, ready for part 2. "You said, Chapter 7. The Rogue Who Knows the Truth, start Part 2, ChatGPT said. Here is Chapter 7. The Rogue Who Knows the Truth, Part 2, 600 words, no repetition from earlier parts, deep emotional layering, world building woven tight. Chapter 7. The Rogue Who Knows the Truth, Part 2. Kieran moved before I could react. One moment he was beside me, tense but still composed. The next he slammed the rogue against a tree with the force of an approaching storm. Bark cracked. Rogue didn't fight back. "If you don't start explaining," Kieran growled, voice rougher than I'd ever heard it, "I'll tear out your throat and take my time doing it." The rogue only looked at him with something like pity. "You think you're protecting her," he murmured, "but you're late, all of you are." Kieran's grip tightened. The air between them vibrated with raw, unstable energy. I stepped forward. "Kieran, let him talk." His head whipped toward me, eyes burning, the edge of his shift shimmering beneath the surface. Anger at me, fear. He hated that this stranger knew something he didn't. "He's manipulating you," Kieran snapped. "No," the rogue cut in. "I'm the only one here who doesn't want her dead." My pulse stuttered. Kieran's fury wavered for a breath, but he didn't release him. "Name now." "Raph," he coughed once, unfazed. "Former sentinel of the Silvermaw line." My knees weakened. Silvermaw. A name whispered in fragments, always silenced by those in power. A lineage wiped from every archive. A family remembered only through warning. Raph continued, voice lower now, carrying weight rather than theatrics. I served the last alpha of your bloodline until the council ordered us all destroyed. Kieran scoffed, sharp, defensive. There is no Silvermaw bloodline. It's a myth scared pups whisper at night. Raph's gaze pinned him. Tell yourself that if it comforts you, alpha heir, you weren't alive when they burned their homes. Something cold unfurled inside me. Not fear, more like a truth I'd always felt without understanding. I swallowed hard. What does this have to do with me? Raph finally turned to me fully, shoulders dropping a fraction. You were born carrying a dormant wolf, one that the council couldn't risk waking. Silvermaw wolves didn't follow pack laws. They didn't submit. Their instincts were different. He glanced at my hands, still slightly tingling from the ruins. They said your wolf was dead. Broken. They lied. Kieran's voice dropped to a low rasp. Enough. No, I said quietly. Keep going. Raph's expression softened, but not kindly, more like he was bracing me. When a Silvermaw wolf wakes, it doesn't whisper, it roars. Instinct hits harder, scent recognition burns stronger. Mate bonds, he hesitated. Mate bonds become undeniable forces. Heat crept up my neck. Kieran went perfectly still beside me. Raph noticed. You've felt it, haven't you? Something pulling you toward her. Kieran's reaction wasn't anger this time. It was something far more dangerous, vulnerable, raw, barely concealed under layers of pride. This isn't about mating, he snapped. Everything about Silvermaw is about instinct, Raph replied. Which is why they feared them. A pack where instinct outweighs council law is a pack they can't control. My breath trembled, but I kept my voice steady. Why tell me this now? Why reveal yourself at all? Raph took a slow step closer, carefully watching Kieran's hands in case he lunged. Because the council felt your wolf wake, they aren't guessing. His eyes darkened with memory, not color. They will destroy you the same way they destroyed the others. Silence pressed between the three of us, but not empty. It carried warning, history, truth cracking open. Kieran finally released Raph, but he didn't step away. Then tell me how to stop them. Raph's mouth curved, not in humor, more like relief. That's why I'm here. He reached into his coat and pulled out something wrapped in dark cloth. Something that pulsed faintly beneath the fabric. Because to survive what's coming, Raph said, holding it out to me, Aurora needs to know what they stole from her. Asen, ready for Chapter 7, Part 3. You said Chapter 7. The Rogue Who Knows the Truth, start Part 3, ChatGPT said. Here is Chapter 7. The Rogue Who Knows the Truth, Part 3, full 600 words, advancing plot plus subplots, no repeated phrases, deep tension, human flow. Chapter 7. The Rogue Who Knows the Truth, Part 3. Raph placed the wrapped object in my hands as if it were alive. It was warm. Warm in a way that made the tiny hairs on my arms rise, as if my wolf leaned forward inside me, curious and overly awake. Kieran stepped closer, not to take it, but to shield me from whatever it was. His stance changed subtly, protective without blocking my choice. I felt that shift more than I saw it. Open it, Raph said. Kieran growled low. She doesn't take orders from you. Raph didn't flinch. It's not an order, it's a warning and a gift. My fingers tightened around the cloth. Something inside it throbbed faintly, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to any creature. I looked at Raph. What is it? A memory, he said. Your mother S. The ground seemed to tilt only for me. A cold rush swept through my chest, and my wolf surged hard enough to sting behind my ribs. She died the night the council attacked, didn't she? I asked. Raph nodded. She died saving you. I inhaled sharply. Kieran glanced at me, jaw tense, not in judgment, but in the way someone braces when they want to help but don't know how. Raph continued, voice steady, careful. Before they reached her, she hid a piece of herself in this. It's a Silvermaw relic, an anchor for a dormant wolf. It responds only to bloodline. My throat tightened. Why give it to me? Because you're the last one. Raph looked almost tired. And because the council will hunt you harder now that your wolf stirred in the ruins. This will unlock what they feared most. Kieran moved slightly, positioning himself between me and the forest, scanning, scenting, gauging threats. His instincts were a blur beneath the surface. What happens when she opens it? Kieran asked. Raph hesitated, studying me with a strange, solemn expression. She'll see what they tried to bury. A pause. And her wolf won't stay quiet anymore. My pulse skipped, then steadied into something firmer, sharper. Not fear, not quite courage, more like inevitability. The moment I touched the cloth's edge, heat pulsed through my palm. It wasn't painful, it felt like someone whispering against my skin, something familiar, something old. Kieran tensed. Aurora! I need to know, I murmured. He exhaled, not agreeing but not stopping me either, so I pulled the cloth back. Inside rested a small crescent-shaped piece of bone, smooth, etched with markings that shimmered like shifting moonlight. Not carved, grown. The instant air touched it, the forest reacted. Wind stirred violently. Leaves rattled across the ground. The temperature dropped just enough to feel wrong. Kieran reached for me, steadying my elbow. "Aurora," Raph stepped back, eyes glinting. "It recognizes you." The bone glowed brighter, as if waking from a centuries-old sleep. And then a flash, not light, memory. My knees buckled as a vision slammed through me. I stood inside a burning hall, stone walls collapsing, flames licking up broken pillars. Screams echoed from distant rooms. Smoke choked the air. Yet in the center of it all, a woman with the same hair as mine held a tiny bundle against her chest. Her eyes, my eyes, blazed with silver light. "Run," she whispered, not to me but to someone hidden from view. "Take her. They can't find her wolf." Fire roared. A crash shook the ground. She turned toward the doorway where shadows approached, figures wearing the insignia of the Great Council. She didn't hide. She stepped forward, shielding the child with her body. Silver light erupted from her like a wave. The vision shattered. I gasped, stumbling. Kieran caught me instantly, arms firm around my shoulders. "Aurora, what did you see?" Raph watched me with a grief that didn't belong to a stranger. I swallowed, voice trembling but clear. "My mother didn't die weak, she died fighting them." Kieran's grip on me changed, gentler, reverent almost, something shifting behind his eyes. Raph nodded once. "Now you understand why they fear you." The relic dimmed, but its warmth lingered in my palm, alive, aware. Somewhere deep inside, my wolf stretched, awakened by memory. Not timid, not broken, something far stronger. I looked up at Raph. "What happens next?" Raph's reply held no drama, only certainty. "The council already knows you've awakened. You have days at best." Then his voice hardened. "So we move before they do." Kieran's voice dropped, steady and dangerously calm. "Then we start now." And just like that, the hunt shifted. This time we weren't the prey. Asen, ready for Chapter 8, Part 1. "You said, Chapter 8. The Truth That Burns, start Part 1," ChatGPT said. "Here is Chapter 8. The Truth That Burns, Part 1, 600 words. No repetition from previous parts. Escalating tension plus character arcs." Chapter 8, The Truth That Burns, Part 1. Raph led us deeper into the forest, moving fast but never careless. He glanced over his shoulder every few steps, as if expecting the trees themselves to betray us. Kieran stayed close at my side, not crowding but alert in a way that radiated heat. His senses stretched outward, catching things long before I did. Every shift of wind, every hollow echo, every scent that didn't belong. My grip tightened around the crescent relic in my palm. It pulsed with a faint rhythm, almost like it was aware I refused to let go. Kieran noticed. "Does it still burn?" "No," I said. "It feels awake." He didn't comment, but something flickered through his expression, an emotion he tried to hide and failed. Not fear for himself, but for me. Raph stopped suddenly. "We can't keep walking blind," he said. "You need to hear the rest before you decide what comes next." Kieran's tone sharpened. "You mean before we decide?" Raph smirked just enough to be disrespectful. "Protective, aren't we?" Kieran stepped forward in a slow, deliberate way that promised consequences. I moved between them before things cracked open again. "Just talk, Raph." He inhaled, eyes shifting toward the ridge overlooking the valley, where faint torchlight flickered in the distance. Patrols. "They're increasing their reach," Raph muttered. "Frostfang warriors, council scouts, a few hired bands pretending neutrality. They're circling the territory for one reason." His gaze locked on me. "You." A cold, bitter understanding slid down my spine. Kieran growled. "We'll deal with them." "No," Raph snapped. "Not unless you know what she carries. Silvermaw wolves weren't just stronger, they weren't just resistant to control." His voice dropped. "They could command instinct itself." I frowned. "What does that mean?" Raph crouched, drawing a rough circle in the dirt. Then he tapped the center. "Every wolf has impulses, rage, protectiveness, hunger, the need to follow an alpha's command. Most wolves fight them or obey them." He tapped the outer ring. "Silvermaw wolves didn't resist instinct." He looked up. "They redirected it." Kieran's breath hitched, just barely noticeable, but I felt it. His whole body stilled as Raph's words sank in. "That's impossible," he said. "It's why your council burned their legacy," Raph answered. I stared at the relic, feeling its warmth press into my skin. "And you think I can do that?" I whispered. "I think your wolf woke because she recognized the threat," Raph replied. "She's been forced down for so long she barely knows how to breathe. But the ruins stirred something." "Your mother's memory stirred more." He stepped closer, slowly, respectfully. "Aurora, your wolf didn't just wake, she called out." A rustle snapped through the trees. Kieran pivoted instantly, placing himself between me and the sound. His posture sharpened, ready to shift without hesitation. Raph lifted a hand, listening. Too light to be a scout. The bushes parted. A young wolf pup, barely large enough to be weaned, stumbled out, whining softly. Mud clung to its fur. Its ribs showed faintly beneath its sides. It wasn't wild. It was alone. The pup limped toward me with hesitant steps, sniffing the air as if searching for something. Kieran's voice lowered. Careful! But the pup ignored him entirely. It padded closer until its nose almost touched the relic in my hand. Then it dropped to its belly and whimpered, submissive, reverent. Raph inhaled sharply. That shouldn't be possible. What? I asked. He looked at me with a stunned expression that replaced all his usual arrogance. Silvermaw instinct, he murmured. Even dormant, it's already responding to you. Kieran stared at the pup, muscles tightening, not with anger, confusion mixed with something like awe. Aurora, he said quietly, that pup just recognized you as something above alpha. My pulse thudded softly, steady and strangely sure, because deep inside my wolf didn't question any of it. She simply stretched. And welcomed the recognition. Raph swallowed once. Now do you understand why the council will burn the forest down to find you? I curled my fingers around the relic. Then distant horns echoed across the valley. Kieran stiffened. That's a council call. Raph's face hardened. We're out of time. And just like that, the chase began. Asen ready for Chapter 8, Part 2. You said Chapter 8. The Truth That Burns, start Part 2, ChatGPT said. Here is Chapter 8. The Truth That Burns, Part 2. 600 words. Advancing main plot plus subplots. New emotional beats, no repeated phrases. Chapter 8. The Truth That Burns, Part 2. Raph pushed us toward a narrow ravine choked with roots and undergrowth. Move! They're close enough to scent us if the wind shifts. Kieran didn't argue. He caught my wrist lightly and guided me ahead of him, taking the rear position, every step calculated to cover our tracks. The pup trotted beside me, its gait wobbly but determined. The horns sounded again, closer, sharper, a gathering call. Council-trained wolves didn't search blindly. They flushed prey in coordinated rings. We won't outrun them forever, Kieran muttered. Not if they brought seekers, Raph grimaced. They did, I tensed. Seekers. Raph answered without slowing. Wolves bred for one purpose, tracking anything the council marks. They don't think, they don't question. They follow the scent of a target until they collapse or catch it. And you're saying they're following mine, I said quietly. Raph's silence was enough. The ravine narrowed, forcing us into single file. Kieran kept one hand hovering near the back of my shoulder, steering me around jutting rocks. He wasn't talking much, but his tension vibrated through the air. They'll expect us to head west, he said, toward the deeper forest. Raph nodded. Exactly why we go east. Kieran stopped. East leads to the border cliffs. Good, Raph snapped. The council never checks there. They never check because it's a dead end, Kieran shot back. Raph turned, eyes flaring with impatience. You said you'd protect her. That means letting her lead where the council doesn't expect. I stepped between them again, hand up. Argue later, decide now. Kieran's gaze softened when it landed on me, though the tension didn't fade. I don't like being cornered. Neither do I, Raph muttered. But we're already in their net. Only question is whether we slip through or get strangled. I breathed out slowly. The relic vibrated in my palm, faint, rhythmic, like a pulse syncing with my own. My wolf stirred, attentive, waiting. I say we go east, I said. Kieran's jaw flexed, but not in refusal. More like acceptance strangled by reluctance. Fine. But I stay between you and the edge. Raph pushed forward. Then keep up. The path turned brutal. Roots tore at my boots, the air grew heavy with the scent of iron-rich stone, and the ground sloped upward toward the cliffs. The pup kept close to my heels, stopping only when it sensed something ahead. Raph lifted a fist, silent signal. We froze. Voices drifted down from the ridge, not loud, trained, meant for coordination, not conversation. Kieran shifted his stance, body angled protectively toward me. His expression sharpened, stripped of the softness he let slip when we were alone. This was the alpha air, focused, lethal. Raph scanned the terrain. 3 scouts, none shifted. Why send unshifted? I whispered. Because they think you're running scared, Raph replied. I almost laughed at the bitter irony. Kieran leaned closer, lips near my ear. When things break, you don't hesitate. Shift and run if I tell you to. A shiver traced down my spine, not from fear, but the certainty in his voice. He wasn't preparing to abandon me. He was preparing to fight while I escaped. No, I whispered back. We move together. His breath caught not in surprise, but something heavier. Aurora! A sharp snap echoed from above, a boot, then another. Raph swore under his breath. Too close, they're sweeping the ridge line. The pup pressed itself against my leg, trembling from instinct, not pain. Kieran scanned the trees. We need cover. There. Raph pointed toward a hollow splitting the cliffside, barely wide enough for two wolves to squeeze through. We sprinted. Branches whipped past. Stones cut into our palms. The council voices sharpened as they descended the slope. Raph shoved aside a fallen trunk, revealing the hollow's entrance. In! Kieran motioned for me to go first. I ducked inside, pulling the pup with me. Kieran followed, barely fitting, blocking most of the light. His shoulders brushed both walls, forming a barrier between me and the outside. Raph squeezed in last, sealing us into darkness. Bootsteps thundered overhead. Kieran's breath steadied in my ear, calm but razor-edged. Raph held completely still. The pup whimpered once, soft, high, not loud enough to carry. I pressed the relic against my chest. Outside, a scout stopped directly above us, and then he sniffed the air. Austin, ready for Chapter 8, Part 3. You said, Chapter 8. The Truth That Burns, start Part 3, ChatGPT said. Chapter 8. The Truth That Burns, start Part 3. The world didn't shatter when the truth finally landed, it rotted. It seeped into my bones, into the cracks of every memory I ever trusted, turning them black from the inside out. I could still hear Rowan's voice, low and ragged, echoing behind the trees where he'd told me. You weren't born powerless, Arya. You were made powerless. Made, not cursed. Not unlucky. Not weak, made. My steps dragged through the underbrush as I returned to the pack border, Rowan's words clawing deeper with each breath. Cade was waiting. He stood just beyond the clearing, shoulders tense, chest rising fast, as if he'd been pacing the entire time. His wolf was so close to the surface the air around him vibrated with it. When he saw me, something in his expression cracked like glass under heat. Arya! Not a command, not even a question. A plea dressed as my name. I lifted my chin, trying to hold myself together by sheer force of will. You knew, I whispered. His inhale faltered. I stepped closer. Cade, you knew they suppressed my wolf. I didn't know how, he said, voice fraying at the edges. Only that something was wrong, something forced. I tried to get answers, but your father. My father drugged me since childhood, I said, the words hitting the night like sparks. He clipped my wolf's instincts before they could even grow. Cade's jaw clenched so hard his teeth creaked. I could feel the storm inside him building, anger, guilt, the bone-deep regret of an alpha who should have protected me long before now. His wolf surged, eyes flashing molten gold. I swear to the moon, he rasped. If I'd known, if I'd understood what he did to you. I shook my head, cutting him off, because if I let him apologize now, I would break open in his arms and never recover. It doesn't matter, I said softly. What matters is what I do next. His chest rose sharply. Arya, don't walk into this alone. I've been alone for 18 years, I answered. But next time I face him, I won't be. My wolf, still awakening, still trembling, stirred with a heat that bordered on fury. Not weak, not diminished. Waiting. Cade stepped forward until the space between us was a breath. His hand lifted but didn't touch, hovering near my cheek as if the slightest pressure would ruin me. I should have protected you, he whispered. I will now. Whatever you do next, I'm with you. The burning truth, the thing I had been trying so hard not to feel, finally collided with my ribs. I believed him, but belief wasn't enough. Not yet. Not while my father walked freely with blood on his hands and poison in his pockets. Cade, I murmured, there's something worse. His breath stilled. Tell me. I met his eyes, letting the truth scorch between us. He didn't just suppress my wolf, I said. He bound her to someone else. The forest fell utterly silent. Cade's face drained of color. Bound to who? I swallowed hard. To the alpha heir of another pack. I hesitated, heat rising in my throat like fire. And it wasn't you. His wolf ripped to the surface in a violent, visceral surge, eyes blazing, aura exploding outward like a snarl made of light and thunder. For the first time since learning the truth, it didn't terrify me. It felt like justice. End of Part 3, Austin. Just say, Chapter 9, Part 1, whenever you're ready. You said, Chapter 9, the Ember King comes for his heir, start Part 1, ChatGPT said. Chapter 9, the Ember King comes for his heir, start Part 1. The night didn't simply darken. It lowered like a predator crouching above the world. A tremor shivered through the forest floor first, soft, subtle, then spreading, deepening, until even the pine needles clung to the earth as if bracing for something ancient. Cade stiffened beside me. That's not your father, he said quietly. His wolf rose behind his voice like a warning drum. I knew. I felt it before he said a word. A heat unfurled beneath my skin, slow, coiling, unmistakable, like embers waking from a long, forced sleep. My wolf, still fragile, still struggling to free herself from the chains of my past, jerked awake as if struck by lightning. A pulse answered from the horizon. Not Cade's, not the pack-ass, something older. Something born in flame and dominance. Cade's head jerked toward me, eyes widening. "Arya, what is that?" But I was already trembling, not in fear, in recognition. A second pulse rippled through the forest, hotter, heavier, cracking through the night like molten thunder. And with it came a voice, silent yet undeniable, that slid into my bones with terrifying familiarity. "Found you." My heart slammed against my ribs. Cade stepped in front of me instinctively, his aura flaring gold, protective, furious. "Stay behind me. Whoever that is, they're not crossing this border." But the border meant nothing to the storm approaching. Trees groaned. Branches curled from blistering heat. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of soot, fire, and something like royalty. In the distance, shapes appeared, dark silhouettes with eyes glowing ember red. Rogues, no, their formation was too disciplined. Their presence too controlled. A guard, an escort. And in the center of them, walking as if the world itself parted for him, a man made of flame and shadow. Tall, regal. A predator sculpted in ember-lit muscle with fire flickering beneath his skin like a second heartbeat. His hair was dark, threaded with metallic copper strands that glowed with each step. And his eyes, gods. His eyes were the color of burning coals, ancient, commanding, and locked onto me with an intensity that stole my breath. Cade snarled, wolf snapping through him like lightning. "Who the hell are you?" The stranger didn't even glance at him. His gaze stayed pinned to me. When he finally spoke, his voice rolled like distant thunder, deep, resonant, impossible to ignore. "Arya." My name in his mouth felt like a verdict. Cade stepped forward, teeth bared. "Back away from her." But the flame-marked stranger only tilted his head slightly, studying me, not him. And then he said the words that froze Cade's snarl mid-breath and nearly knocked me to my knees. "You carry my blood." A pause, and my heirs bond. My lungs collapsed. Cade's wolf roared through him. "She is not yours." The stranger finally looked at him slowly, almost pitying. "I am the Ember King," he said, each word dripping with sovereign fire. "And she is what your pack tried to steal." Heat surged under my skin, searing, alive, my wolf responding to him against my will, recognizing something deep, buried, forbidden. I staggered back, gripping a tree as my knees buckled. The Ember King took one more step toward me. Fire curled at his fingertips. "Arya," he murmured, eyes burning into mine, "your true inheritance has come home." End of part 1, Asen. Just say Chapter 9, Part 2 when you're ready for the next part. You said. Chapter 9, The Ember King comes for his heir. Start Part 2, ChatGPT said. Chapter 9, The Ember King comes for his heir. Start Part 2. The ground vibrated beneath my feet, not from his footsteps, but from the power he carried like a living inferno wrapped in skin. The Ember King. The title alone felt too big for the forest around us, too ancient for my lungs to hold. Cade's aura clashed against the heat rolling off him, gold against ember red, dominance against dominance, two storms meeting in the dark. Except only one storm had centuries behind it, and it was Cade's. I tasted ash on my tongue as the Ember King came closer, every step deliberate, as if he were approaching something precious he thought he'd lost. "Stay back," Cade growled, and his wolf tore through the warning with lethal promise. The Ember King didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't even slow. "Alpha," he said calmly, "your threat is irrelevant." Cade's snarl deepened. "Touch her and I swear, you swear nothing," the Ember King cut in, voice smooth as burning oil. "You are a boy guarding a throne that does not belong to you." Cade lunged, or tried to. A wall of heat flared between them so violently the air rippled. Cade jerked back with a guttural hiss, wincing, skin flushed from the scorch. The king never even raised a hand. My pulse raced. My wolf shuddered under my skin, caught between wanting to run and wanting to kneel, neither of which felt like me. "What do you want?" I demanded, breath sharp and unsteady. Finally, his eyes returned to mine, and everything inside me tightened. "You," he said simply. My heart stuttered. Cade stepped in front of me again, shaking off the heat, voice cracking with fury. "Over my dead body. Easily arranged," the king murmured. "Cade." My voice snapped out before he could strike again. He froze, torn between his instincts and my words. "Move." He turned to me, disbelief in his eyes. "Arya, this isn't. He's dangerous." "So are we," I whispered. "But he's not here to kill us." Cade's jaw flexed. "You don't know that." But I did, because the fire in the Ember King's eyes wasn't the fire of a conqueror. It was the fire of someone claiming what he believed was already his. The king took one final step, close enough that heat ghosted over my skin, close enough that my wolf trembled, close enough that I could feel his breath, warm as smoke. "My daughter," he said quietly. The word slammed into my chest. "No," I shook my head. "No, my father is Alpha Rurk." His smile was soft and devastating. "Rurk is the one who stole you. I am the one whose blood burns inside you." The forest tilted. My lungs burned. Somewhere behind me, Cade whispered, broken, "Arya." The king lifted his hand, not touching me, just hovering, as if waiting for permission that his arrogance insisted he didn't need. "When your wolf awakens fully," he said, "she will remember what you were meant to be." "What is that?" I breathed. His eyes flamed brighter. "An ember heir, a daughter of fire, the one destined to reclaim what was stolen from my line." Heat surged through me, violent and wild, the same heat that had been growing for days, awakened by danger, truth, and now by him. My wolf rose like a creature dragged from chains. Cade reached for me again, but before he could touch me, the king murmured something that made my stomach drop. "Do not make this harder for her, Alpha," he said quietly. "She is your mate, but she is my blood." Cade froze. I froze, my breath fractured. The king's gaze softened, not gentle, but unbearably cert. "You were meant for another," he said, voice low as embers. "But fate made a mistake." The forest held its breath. "And I have come to correct it." End of part 2, Asen. Say chapter 9, part 3 when you want the next part. You said, chapter 9, the Ember King comes for his heir. Start part 3, ChatGPT said. Chapter 9, the Ember King comes for his heir. Start part 3, the air between the three of us felt stretched thin, like the forest itself feared choosing a side. Heat roared off the Ember King in slow, controlled waves, while Cade's wolf pressed against the inside of his skin, desperate to tear through the threat, the lie, the truth, whatever this was. But I couldn't look at either of them. I couldn't look away from the king. "My blood," he'd said, not metaphor, not claim, not threat, truth. My palms felt too hot. The ground beneath me pulsed as if something ancient recognized me. Leaves curled at the edges, singed by a heat I wasn't consciously giving off. "What mistake?" I asked, my voice barely carrying. The king's expression shifted, not triumphant, almost regretful. "They stole you," he said. "The night your mother died, Rurk took advantage of the chaos, hid you, masked your scent, forced your awakening into a dormant state so you couldn't reveal who you belonged to." A ringing filled my ears. Cade's breath hitched behind me. "Arya, don't listen to him. Rogues twist truth to serve." "I don't lie," the king said sharply. "Not about her." The forest flickered orange, not from a fire, but from me. My skin glowed faintly, heat bleeding through, a pulse echoing in my veins like sparks begging for oxygen. No one spoke. Not until Cade stepped forward, voice cracking in a way that wasn't anger. "What are you doing to her?" The king looked at him with something close to pity. "Nothing, her lineage is waking. The fire was always there. Your bond simply forced it to rise early." Bond. That word tore through me harder than the truth. "Cade," I whispered, turning just enough to meet his eyes. His expression devastated me, not enraged, not jealous, but terrified of losing me. "You're not going with him," he said, quieter than I'd ever heard him. "I don't care what he thinks he is, you choose where you stand." The king's gaze sharpened. "She chooses nothing. Blood calls blood." Heat flared in my chest, painful and bright. It felt as if my ribs were cracking open from the inside. My wolf surged, fighting for air, fighting for space, fighting for truth. Something inside me snapped. "I'm done being chosen," I hissed, stepping back from both of them. Cade's eyes widened. The king's narrowed. "My life has been dictated by other people's decisions since the day I was born," I continued. "Rurk made choices for me. The council made choices for me. Even my own wolf was forced into silence because someone decided I wasn't allowed to exist." A harsh breath escaped me. Sparks drifted off my fingertips like burning dust. "I won't be claimed by blood or bond until I decide what I am." The king studied me, as if seeing something he hadn't expected. "Strength," he murmured. "She found her strength." But there was something else, something like pride mixed with shadow. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You will need it, daughter, because the war Rurk thought he avoided by stealing you is coming." Cade stiffened. "War with who?" The king's eyes glowed molten red. "With me." Forest dimmed, my gut twisted. "You're threatening the pack," I demanded. "No," he said, voice dangerously calm. "I am reclaiming what was taken from mine. The Ember Court doesn't bow, it doesn't forget." His gaze locked onto mine. "And it never loses its heirs." The heat around us surged until the bark on nearby trees crackled. Cade's wolf raged at the threat. I felt it in the way the air snapped with his energy, his need to pull me behind him, to defend me, to challenge a king made of fire. But I didn't move toward Cade, and I didn't move toward the king. I held my ground because something in my bones, something old, told me that stepping toward either of them meant sealing a fate I wasn't ready to choose. The king softened for the first time. "I am not your enemy," he said, "but the longer you stay here, the more danger you bring to them." My heartbeat stumbled to them, to the pack, to Cade. "What do you mean?" I asked. The king lifted his hand and the flames circling us collapsed inward, revealing a vision burned into the air, wolves scattering, homes torched, the council's banners trampled in ash. It wasn't hypothetical, it was prophecy. And at the center of the chaos, my face wreathed in fire, my wolf massive and burning, my mark unclaimed. Cade sucked in a breath. "Arya," I stepped back, panic and heat tangling in my chest. The king lowered his hand, the vision dissolving. "Cannot outrun your origin," he said. "You can only prepare." Then he just turned, as if this explosive revelation wasn't enough to tear my world open. "When you are ready," he said, "follow the fire." And with a flare of heat that folded the forest around him, he vanished. Not a shift, not a step. A disappearance like smoke pulled through a crack in the world. Cade grabbed my arms before the last ember faded. "Arya, look at me." I did, and the fear in his eyes wasn't fear of the king. It was fear of losing me to a destiny neither of us had seen coming. End of Chapter 9. Part 3 Awesome. Say Chapter 10 Part 1 when you want to finish the final chapter. You said. Chapter 10. Fireborn Mate Start Part 1 ChatGPT said. Chapter 10. Fireborn Mate Start Part 1. The forest still felt scorched even after the Ember King vanished, not visibly, not in flames, but in the way the air tasted sharp, metallic, like the world had been cauterized around us. Cade hadn't let go of my arms, not roughly, not possessively, just holding on as if grounding me was the only thing stopping his wolf from unraveling. "Arya," he murmured, voice jagged at the edges. "Tell me you're not believing him." I didn't answer because belief wasn't the problem. The heat pulsing under my skin was. A low, frustrated sound rumbled from him. "Talk to me." I looked up slowly into eyes that no longer carried only dominance. There was something fragile hiding behind the gold, something he would never show anyone else. Fear, not for himself, for me. "Cade," I said quietly, "if what he showed was real." "It wasn't," he snapped. The gust of his frustration blew through the trees, but he didn't release me. His thumb brushed the inside of my wrist once, unintentional, a slip of instinct. Yet my wolf surged toward the contact like it recognized something it had been starving for, which only made everything harder. "He manipulated you," Cade insisted. "He wants you scared, he wants you confused." "He wants me back," I whispered. Those words tasted wrong, heavy, as if I'd spoken someone else's truth. Cade stepped closer. "I'm not letting him take you." The space between us thinned. The gold in his eyes brightened, not a dominance flare this time, but something deeper, more raw. "You're mine," he said. The way he said it, not claimed, not demanded, but breathed, made my chest tighten around something I'd been afraid to acknowledge. "Cade," my voice wavered. "I don't know who I am anymore." "You're Arya," he said instantly. "The girl who kept helping pack pups even when the elders ignored her. The girl who trained 3 times harder because she wanted to earn her place, not take it. The girl who walked into my territory after 6 years and refused to bow." A shaky exhale escaped me. "And your mate," he added softly. My breath hitched, not in cliché shock, but in the quiet, slow-breaking reality of hearing something I wanted and feared in equal measure. Cade lifted one hand, stopping just shy of my cheek. "Say you don't feel it and I'll drop this." His voice was steady. His pulse was. My throat tightened. Heat pooled under my skin, gathering in my chest, rising like a tide that didn't belong to the girl I used to be, because the Ember King had touched something dormant inside me. And Cade touched the part of me that was still human enough to want. "I feel it," I whispered. I couldn't lie, not to him, not when my wolf leaned forward like the confession had unlocked a door inside her. Relief cracked across his face, so quick, so real it nearly unmade me. But then the heat surged again, unwanted and overwhelming. I staggered back as a burn clawed up my spine. "Arya!" Cade moved instantly, reaching for me. "Don't wait," I gasped, dropping to one knee as heat rippled outward, bending the grass around me. My wolf yowled in my head, not in pain, in awakening. Cade crouched beside me, panic edging his voice. "What's happening?" I pressed a palm to the ground. Sparks flared beneath my skin, crawling through the earth like veins of fire. "I think," my voice strained. "I think he unlocked something." Cade's hand hovered over my back, careful not to touch. "Tell me what to do." I shook my head, teeth clenched. "You can't fix this. I'm not leaving you to handle it alone." Another flare shot through me, bright and brutal. My breath came in sharp bursts as my nails dug into the dirt. It wasn't a shift. It wasn't pain. It was breaking open. My heart pounded once, hard enough to echo in my bones. The heat snapped free. Flames erupted under my skin in a burst of light, not burning me, not hurting me, but reshaping something deep and ancient. Cade shielded his face, but he didn't move away. When the flare finally dimmed, I lifted my head. The earth beneath me glowed faintly, etched with lines of ember red. My eyes burned not from tears, but from the fire settling inside them. Cade stared, breath unsteady. "Arya, your eyes," I swallowed. "What color?" "Like molten metal," he whispered. Silence stretched, not empty, but dangerous, because whatever I was before, this wasn't it. Slowly, I rose to my feet. The air trembled around me. Heat licked along my arms like I was wearing fire instead of skin. Cade watched me as if seeing me for the first time, not as the girl he'd pushed away, not as the mate he feared losing, but as something powerful, something fireborn. "What does this mean?" he asked. I drew in a breath, steady, controlled. "It means the Ember King wasn't wrong," I said. "My wolf is waking, and she's not like others." Cade stepped forward, close enough that I could hear his heartbeat, but careful enough not to crowd me. His voice dropped low. "Then we deal with it together." For the first time since the king arrived, the heat in my chest eased, just a little. End of Chapter 10, Part 1. Asen, say Chapter 10, Part 2 when you want the next part. You said, Chapter 10, Fireborn Mate Start Part 2, ChatGPT said. Chapter 10, Fireborn Mate Start Part 2. The glow beneath my skin didn't fade. If anything, it settled like a forge cooling to the perfect temperature, waiting for the next strike. Cade didn't flinch from the heat rolling off me. He should have. Any other wolf would have stepped back, instincts overwhelmed. But Cade stayed exactly where he was, shoulders squared, jaw tense, eyes fixed on me with a focus that felt like a promise. Not a claim, a vow. "I need you to tell me everything you're feeling," he said quietly. His voice wasn't commanding this time. It wasn't even alpha deep. It was human, scraped raw at the edges. I took a breath, and the air shimmered around me. It's like my wolf finally has space to move, like she was caged for years and someone just broke the lock. Cade's gaze softened, but tension still clung to him. "Is she in pain?" "No," I said slowly. "She's watching, awake, trying to understand what she's supposed to be." His breath left him in a shaky exhale. "You scared me." The honesty in those 3 words hit harder than flame. I stepped toward him carefully, testing my control. The ground didn't flare this time, and my skin stayed bright but contained. Cade's eyes tracked every shift of heat. "Are you afraid of me now?" I asked. My voice didn't waver, but something inside me held its breath. Cade didn't answer right away. He scanned my face, my posture, the faint ember lines still glowing across my arms, as if memorizing the new version of me. Then he moved one step closer, closing the remaining distance until my fire cast a soft glow across his chest. "Arya," he said, "I'm afraid for you, that's different." My throat tightened. His hand lifted, not touching, just hovering near my cheek, waiting for any sign I didn't want the contact. I didn't pull away. He brushed his knuckles against my cheek, and the heat under my skin didn't burn him. Instead, it curled toward his touch, softening as if my fire recognized his wolf. "Cade," I whispered. His thumb traced a slow line beneath my eye. "I don't care whose blood you carry. I care who you choose." Before I could answer, movement rustled through the trees, sharp, frantic, wrong. Cade stiffened instantly. His hand dropped, body shifting into alpha alert. "Someone's coming." I felt it too, a pulse in the earth, a vibration that wasn't mine. No, several. Footsteps crashing through underbrush, not stealthy, not calculated. "Pack?" I asked. "Not that many," he murmured. His wolf surfaced under his skin, ready to tear through whatever was coming. Branches snapped. And then Beta Rowan stumbled into view, panting, blood on his collar, eyes wide with something close to horror. "Alpha," Rowan gasped, doubling over. "It's the elders, they're not at the stronghold anymore. They've..." He stopped when he finally looked at me, his body jerked. "Arya, you're your eyes," Cade cut in sharply. "Focus, Rowan." Rowan swallowed hard, dragging himself back to the message. "The elders are preparing a hunt. They called every warrior to arms. They said," his throat worked. "They said the Fireborn girl is a threat to the pack." Cade's snarl ripped through the clearing. Birds scattered from the trees. "What?" I whispered. Rowan nodded, pale. "They announced you're to be taken alive for questioning or put down if you resist." Cade moved so fast the air snapped. "They won't touch her," he growled. "Not one of them." Rowan hesitated. "Alpha, there's more." Cade froze. "Say it." Rowan's voice fell. "The elders claim the mate bond is compromised, that you're unfit to lead until she's detained." Heat roared through my veins, hotter, sharper, angrier. My vision wavered with sparks. Cade stepped in front of me on instinct, shielding me even though I didn't need protection from Rowan. "They're challenging my authority over a lie," Cade said, voice dangerously calm. "And they're doing it to get to her." Rowan nodded once. The forest went terribly still. My wolf rose, not in fear, in fury. My voice was quiet when it came. "They're hunting me." Cade turned to me, jaw tight. "They're hunting the wrong target. They want a scared girl they think they can corner." He stepped closer. "But you're fireborn now." Flames spiraled through my veins, answering something in his words I hadn't dared to feel until this moment. Rowan looked between us, stunned. "What do we do? The pack is already mobilizing." Cade's eyes didn't leave mine. "We don't run," he said. "We confront the elders before they can twist this further." I exhaled, steadying the heat inside me. "And if they fight?" A slow, lethal smile crossed Cade's face, the kind that only surfaced when he'd chosen war. "Then they'll learn," he said quietly, "exactly who they're hunting." The ember under my skin flared in agreement. For the first time since my fire awakened, I wasn't afraid of it. I was ready to use it. End of Chapter 10. Part 2 Asen, say Chapter 10 Part 3 for the final ending. You said, "Yas ChatGPT said, perfect Asen." Jab tum yas bolti ho iska matlab tum next part ya next chapter chati ho. Buzz Badow, Chapter 10, Fireborn Mate Start Part 3 lick done. Yakoi or chapter, you said, Yas ChatGPT said, Chapter 10, FIREBURN Mate Part 3. The moment the bond finally breathes for a heartbeat, the world stopped breathing. Not the forest, not the packlands, not even the night, just them, just her fire and his ruin. Kieran stood in front of her, chest rising and falling too fast, as if his lungs had forgotten how to take air without her scent in it. The golden burn of the fireborn mark crawled up his throat, pulsing under his skin like molten veins trying to escape. Arya felt her own pulse answering it, an ache, a pull, a yearning she had been trained her whole life to fear. Flames curled softly around her ankles, not burning, just circling, claiming. "You feel it," Kieran whispered, voice hoarse. "Don't lie to me." "Not about this," Arya swallowed. I can't." His hand didn't touch her, didn't dare. Just hovered inches from her cheek, trembling with the effort it took to not complete the bond screaming inside him. "If I touch you right now," he said quietly, "my wolf won't let go." Her breath caught, because she believed him. Kieran's wolf, usually cold, controlled, dominant, was pacing behind his eyes like a storm that had finally found its lightning rod. "You were never weak," he said, voice beginning to fracture. "You were never cursed, you were hidden, protected, because you were born for this for me." Her heart slammed painfully. "Don't say that." "Why?" His voice broke. "Because it's true, because you feel it too." The flames around her flared, reacting to the beat of her heart. She gasped and took a step back, but the fire followed her like it belonged to him. "No," she breathed, but the truth was pulling her forward anyway. Kieran took one step toward her. Not an alpha's command, not a king's claim, but a boy aching, desperate, who had been waiting his whole life for something he didn't know he lost. "Arya!" Her name left his mouth like a vow. His fingers finally grazed her cheek. The bond detonated. Her fire surged upward. His wolf howled through him. The world blurred into gold and ember. Arya staggered forward, pressing her forehead to his because the pull became unbearable. Too much to fight, too much to deny, too much to survive without answering. "I hate this," she whispered, trembling. "I know," he murmured. "So do I, but neither of them stepped away. Not this time, not anymore. Because the mate bond, long forbidden, long buried, had finally breathed, and nothing in the world was going to smother it again.